The invitation came through the family group chat at 8:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. Emergency family meeting. Saturday, 2 p.m. Attendance mandatory. My Uncle Marcus, the self-appointed patriarch, since my father's passing, had spoken. The group erupted with confirmations, each more enthusiastic than the last. I stared at my phone, sitting in my tiny one-bedroom apartment in Brooklyn that my family loved to criticize. The same apartment that helped me save over $2,000 a month compared to the luxury buildings my cousins lived in. The same modest space that had been the foundation of my entire financial empire, though none of them knew that. "Olivia, we expect you to be there," my mother texted privately. "Uncle Marcus specifically asked about you." Of course he did. I was the family's favorite topic of discussion. The disappointing daughter. The one who wasted her degree by taking a low-level job at a tech startup instead of joining the family's real estate business. They didn't know that startup had made me a millionaire before I turned 27, or that I now silently owned shares in half the buildings my uncle's company managed. "I'll be there," I replied simply. My cousin Sophia called immediately. "Liv, you might want to prepare yourself," she whispered. "They're planning something big. I overheard Mom and Uncle Marcus talking. They're calling it the intervention." I almost laughed. "The intervention? They think you're struggling, living below your potential. Uncle Marcus has this whole presentation prepared about bringing you into the family business, getting you a proper apartment." I glanced at my laptop screen, still open to my investment dashboard. The numbers glowed back at me. $147 million in tech investments, $89 million in real estate holdings, $23 million in cryptocurrency. Total net worth, $259 million. All built quietly over 8 years while they thought I was just getting by. "Thanks for the warning," I told Sophia. "I'll handle it." Saturday arrived crisp and clear. I dressed deliberately in my most modest outfit. Simple black pants, a gray sweater from Target, scuffed boots. The costume of someone they needed to save. The family estate loomed ahead as I parked my 10-year-old Honda among the gleaming luxury cars. Inside, the tension was thick enough to cut. 28 family members sat in the formal living room, arranged like a corporate boardroom. Uncle Marcus stood at the front, next to a projection screen. My mother wouldn't meet my eyes. "Olivia," Uncle Marcus said as I took my seat. "Thank you for joining us." I nodded, saying nothing. "We've called this meeting because we're concerned," he began, clicking to his first slide. "About you, about your future, about the shame your current situation brings to our family name." The room murmured in agreement. My cousin Derek, who'd just crashed his third Porsche, nodded sagely. "Let's look at the facts," Marcus continued. "You're 32 years old, living in a rental apartment in a questionable neighborhood, working at some obscure tech company instead of building real wealth with the family business." He clicked through slides showing property values, career trajectories, family expectations, each point designed to highlight my supposed failures. "Your father would be disappointed," he added, twisting the knife. "He built this legacy for you, and you're throwing it away." I felt the familiar surge of anger at the mention of my father, but kept my face neutral. Dad had actually encouraged me to forge my own path, to build something for myself. His last words to me were, "Don't let them clip your wings, butterfly." "What do you have to say for yourself?" Uncle Marcus demanded. The room turned to me, expecting apologies, tears, submission. Instead, I reached into my bag and pulled out my tablet. Actually, Uncle Marcus, I said calmly, I have a presentation of my own. He blinked, thrown off script. This isn't the time for. I think it is. I stood and walked to the front of the room. You mentioned building real wealth. Let's talk about that. I connected my tablet to the projector, watching their confused faces. The first slide appeared. A satellite view of their office building on Madison Avenue. This is your company headquarters, I said. Purchased last year for $68 million. Except it wasn't purchased by Harrison Real Estate Holdings. Uncle Marcus frowned. What are you talking about? Of course it was. No, I said softly. It was purchased by OLI Ventures, my company. I clicked to the next slide, showing the ownership documents, along with 6 other properties in your portfolio. The room erupted in whispers. Uncle Marcus's face turned red. That's impossible. You can't afford. I clicked again. My investment portfolio filled the screen, numbers clear as day. The room fell silent, as if all the oxygen had been sucked out at once. As of this morning, I said into the silence, my net worth is $259 million. That tiny apartment you mock. It's in a building I own. That obscure tech company. I was employee number 4. My shares are worth 8 figures. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. Uncle Marcus gripped the podium for support. But, he stammered, why didn't you tell us? I looked at him steadily. Because you never asked. You were too busy planning interventions to notice I didn't need one. The room stayed frozen. Years of assumptions were crumbling around them. My cousin Derek had dropped his phone. Aunt Patricia looked like she might faint. Now, I said, clicking to my final slide, should we talk about the real estate market? Because I have some concerns about your recent acquisitions. The silence lasted exactly 37 seconds before Aunt Patricia found her voice. This must be some kind of mistake, she sputtered, her perfectly manicured hands trembling as she adjusted her pearl necklace. Olivia has always been modest. I smiled slightly. Would you like to see the bank statements, Aunt Patricia? Or perhaps the property deeds? I have those too. Uncle Marcus had collapsed into a nearby chair, his face ashen. How? He whispered. How did you manage this without any of us knowing? I pulled up another slide. Let's start with 2016. While you were all mocking my entry-level job at that weird little startup, I was earning stock options. The company was called DataSphere. You might recognize it now. It went public last year at $86 billion. Derek leaned forward, suddenly interested. But that's the company that revolutionized AI data processing. Yes, I nodded, and I own 2% of it. But that was just the beginning. I took those earnings and started investing in real estate. Not the luxury developments you chase, but strategic properties in emerging tech corridors. Silicon Valley, Austin, Boston. My mother stood up shakily. Olivia, sweetheart, why didn't you come to us for advice? We could have helped, like you helped when I wanted to take that tech job, I asked quietly, or when I moved to Brooklyn instead of the Upper East Side. The family's idea of help has always come with conditions. The room shifted uncomfortably. They remembered all the snide comments, the interventions, the constant pressure to conform to their version of success. But that's not why I'm showing you this, I continued, clicking to a new slide. These are your company's recent acquisitions. 6 properties, all purchased above market value, all in areas with declining tech presence. Uncle Marcus straightened, his business instincts kicking in despite his shock. Those properties are prime locations. They were, I interrupted, 5 years ago. But you're so focused on traditional metrics that you've missed the shift. Tech companies are moving out of those areas. I know because I've been tracking their real estate plans through my network. I show them the data, vacancy rates, market trends, projected values. The same information I'd been trying to share for years, only to be dismissed as inexperienced. Your portfolio is about to take a significant hit, I explained, unless you pivot quickly. Cousin James, who'd recently been promoted to VP despite having no qualifications beyond being Uncle Marcus's son, scoffed. And I suppose you think you know better than us. I pulled up one final document. Actually, yes. My properties in the same market have seen a 47% increase in value over the past 18 months. Because I understand where the industry is actually heading, not where you think it should be. The room erupted in chaos. Some family members started furiously Googling my claims. Others whispered frantically among themselves. Uncle Marcus just stared at me, seeing me, really seeing me, for perhaps the first time. What do you want? He finally asked. Why show us all this now? I took a deep breath. This was the moment I'd been waiting for. I want to propose a merger. Your experience with traditional real estate, combined with my tech industry insights and capital. But I held up a hand as excitement flickered across his face. There would be conditions. What conditions? My mother asked softly. First, a complete restructuring of the company leadership. No more promotions based on family ties. We hire the best people, period. Second, a new investment strategy focused on future trends, not past patterns. And third, I paused, looking around the room, an end to these family interventions. No more judging people's choices just because they don't match your expectations. Uncle Marcus started to speak, but Aunt Patricia cut him off. And if we refuse? I smiled, not unkindly. Then I'll continue buying properties in your target markets. Only I'll do it first, with better information and more efficient capital. Your choice. The weight of the moment hung in the air. Decades of family dynamics, power structures, and assumptions about success were being rewritten in real time. My cousin Sophia, who'd warned me about the intervention, suddenly started laughing. Oh my God, she gasped. All those times you asked to join our real estate meetings, you weren't looking for a job. You were doing market research. I winked at her. Someone was paying attention. The family meeting that was supposed to be my intervention had turned into something else entirely. A reckoning. A redistribution of power. And perhaps, if they were smart enough to take my offer, the beginning of something new. Uncle Marcus stood up slowly, straightening his tie. I think, he said carefully, we should continue this discussion over dinner. Perhaps at your apartment? The same apartment they'd spent years criticizing. I caught the hint of humility in his voice and nodded. I'll have my chef prepare something suitable. Your chef? My mother squeaked. Of course, I replied. Did you think I actually cooked all those holiday dishes myself? The drive back to my modest Brooklyn apartment was silent. My mother had insisted on riding with me, perhaps hoping to bridge the years of misunderstandings during the 20-minute journey. She kept glancing at my old Honda, no doubt wondering why I drove it when I could afford a fleet of luxury cars. It's a good car, I said finally. Reliable. Inconspicuous. Like you, she whispered. All these years we thought. You saw what you expected to see, I replied, pulling into the private underground garage of my building. The security guard nodded respectfully as we passed. Mr. Santos, is everything prepared upstairs? Yes, Ms. Olivia. Your chef has everything arranged, and the documents you requested are in your office. My mother's eyes widened as we stepped into the private elevator. Documents? Merger proposals, financial projections, the kind of homework you always told me to do, remember? The elevator opened directly into my apartment, and I heard my mother's sharp intake of breath. The tiny space they pitied me for was actually 3 units combined into a 4,000 square foot masterpiece. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased the Manhattan skyline and original artwork. Much of it from emerging artists I'd invested in adorned the walls. Uncle Marcus and the others arrived minutes later, their luxury cars having taken longer to find parking on the street. Their faces as they entered were a study in dawning comprehension. Please sit. I gestured to the massive dining table, already set for dinner. Chef Andre has prepared something special. Andre? Aunt Patricia perked up. Not Andre Dubois? The same. I nodded. He consults for my restaurants when he's not running his 3-star Michelin establishment. Your restaurants. Derek choked on his water. Among other things. I took my seat at the head of the table, a position Uncle Marcus had occupied at family gatherings for as long as I could remember. But let's discuss business first. Over 7 courses of exquisite French cuisine. I laid out my vision. The merger would create a new entity, Harrison Oley Holdings, combining their traditional real estate expertise with my tech industry connections and modern investment approach. These are the upcoming tech corridors, I explained, showing them maps on the dining room's hidden projection screen. Austin, Raleigh, Boulder, Portland, but not the obvious areas. We need to be ahead of the curve. Like you were with us, Uncle Marcus said quietly, buying properties before we even knew they were valuable. I nodded. The future of real estate isn't just about location anymore. It's about understanding the industry's driving growth, the companies planning expansion, the startups about to explode. And you have access to all this information. James asked, his earlier skepticism replaced by genuine interest. I sit on 12 different tech company boards, I replied. I've invested in over 40 startups. When they succeed, they need space to grow. Real estate isn't just about buildings anymore. It's about ecosystems. As dessert was served, a deconstructed apple tart that made Aunt Patricia actually cry, I distributed the formal proposal documents. Take time to review these, I said. Have your lawyers look them over. But understand this, the offer expires in 72 hours. Why such a rush? My mother asked. I pulled up one final presentation on the screen. Because 3 major tech companies are announcing relocations next month. Their employees will need housing. Their operations will need facilities. The properties need to be secured before those announcements drive up prices. Uncle Marcus was already reading intently, his business instincts overriding any lingering family dynamics. These projections, they're aggressive. They're conservative, I corrected. I've only included confirmed expansions, not potential ones. The actual opportunity is larger. As the evening wound down, the family dynamics had shifted palpably. Gone were the condescending comments about my lifestyle choices. Instead, cousins who'd once mocked my career were asking about tech investment opportunities. Aunts who tried to set me up with suitable men were suddenly interested in my business strategies. One last thing, I said as they prepared to leave. If we do this merger, we do it my way. No more nepotism. No more old boys club. We hire the best people, period. Can you handle that? Uncle Marcus looked around the apartment, at the success they'd been too blind to see, at the empire I'd built while they'd been planning my intervention, and nodded slowly. "I think," he said carefully, "we'd be fools not to." 3 days later, the merger documents were signed. 6 months after that, Harrison Ola Holdings had doubled its portfolio value. The family that had once gathered to save me was now following my lead. My father would have loved the irony. Last week, I finally sold the Honda. Not because I needed something flashier, but because I'd found another young professional who needed a reliable car to get to their modest job. I included a note with the keys. Sometimes the biggest dreams hide behind the smallest beginnings. Trust your path. The family still holds regular meetings, but they're different now. Less about judgment, more about growth. Less about maintaining appearances, more about creating value. And that tiny apartment they'd been so worried about, I kept it. Renovated it into a startup incubator for young entrepreneurs who, like me, have dreams bigger than their current circumstances. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't proving people wrong, it's showing them a better way to be right. As for Uncle Marcus, he recently admitted something at a board meeting. I spent years trying to protect the family legacy, only to discover that Olivia was building its future. I didn't say, "I told you so." I didn't need to. Success speaks for itself. Sometimes it just needs a little time to find its voice.
I crumpled the letter to my lawyer and whispered through gritted teeth, "They are going to regret this." The paper fell to the floor of my childhood bedroom, joining the scattered remnants of what used to be my family. But let me back up. My name is Stacey, and I need to tell you how I got here. How offering to carry my sister's baby turned into the most calculated act of revenge I've ever pulled off. Growing up in the Campbell house was like living in a museum where I was the exhibit nobody wanted to see. Monica, 3 years younger, golden-haired, and effortlessly charming, commanded every room she entered. I was the quiet one, the responsible one, the one who got good grades and never caused trouble. Which, in my family, meant I was invisible. "Stacey, honey, could you help Monica with her college applications?" Mum would say, not looking up from her magazine. "You're so good with that sort of thing." "Stacey, take notes during the financial meeting," Dad would add. "Monica's busy with her engagement party planning." I was 32 years old and still playing secretary to my baby sister's life. The call came on a Tuesday morning in March. Monica's voice cracked through the phone, something I'd never heard before. "Stacey, can you come over? I need to talk to you about something important." I found her in her pristine living room, the one that looked like it belonged in a home design magazine. Carl sat beside her on their white leather couch, his jaw tight, staring at his hands. Monica's eyes were red-rimmed. "We've been trying for 2 years, she said without preamble. "The doctors say my eggs they're not viable. Something about premature ovarian failure." My chest tightened. For all our complicated history, seeing Monica broken like this hurt. "I'm so sorry, Mon. Have you looked into other options? IVF with donor eggs, adoption?" "We want a Campbell baby," Carl interrupted, his voice sharp. "Our child, our genetics." Monica grabbed my hand. "That's why we need you, Stacey. You could be our surrogate. You're healthy, your family, and..." She paused, her grip tightening. "You're the only person I trust with this." The words hit me like a physical blow. Monica needed me. Not my organisational skills or my ability to clean up her messes, but me. My body, yes, but also my love. My sacrifice, my willingness to give her the one thing she couldn't have. "I would use my eggs," I said slowly, "and Carl's..." "Yes," Monica's eyes lit up. "It would still be a Campbell baby, still family." I looked between them, my heart hammering. This could be it. This could be how I finally earned my place in this family, how I became essential instead of just useful. "I'll do it," I said. Monica burst into tears and threw her arms around me. "Thank you, thank you, thank you. You have no idea what this means to us." But I did know. I knew exactly what it meant. 3 days later, we sat in Mom and Dad's formal dining room, the one reserved for important family discussions. The mahogany table stretched between us like a battlefield. "This is a generous offer, Stacey," Dad said, his tone businesslike. "But we need to discuss the practical aspects." "Practical aspects?" I asked. Mom leaned forward, her manicured fingers steepled. "The medical expenses, the legal contracts, the impact on the family reputation if this goes poorly." "It won't go poorly," Monica said quickly. "Stacey's healthy, she's responsible, she'll do everything right." "Of course she will," Mom replied, but her eyes stayed on me. "Because she understands how important this is, how much this baby will mean to our family's future." The way she said our family's future made my stomach clench. Not your future or Monica's future, the family's future. As if I was just a means to an end. "We'll need everything documented," Dad continued. "Proper legal agreements, medical oversight. This can't look like some backyard arrangement." Carl nodded. "I've already spoken to our lawyer about drawing up contracts." "Actually," I said, surprising myself with how steady my voice sounded, "I'd prefer to use my own legal counsel, just to make sure everyone's interests are protected." The room went quiet. Monica's smile faltered. "That seems unnecessary," Mom said carefully. "We're family." "Exactly," I replied. "Which is why we should do this right." I caught Dad and Mum exchanging a look. The kind they'd shared my whole life when they thought I wasn't paying attention. The kind that said they were already 3 steps ahead of me. But this time, they weren't. This time, I was ready for them. The pregnancy test showed 2 pink lines, and within hours, my life stopped being my own. "No caffeine, obviously," Monica said, snatching my morning coffee from my hands. "And I've made you a meal plan. High protein, low sodium, organic, everything." We were standing in my kitchen, but she was rearranging my cabinets like she owned the place. "Monica, I know how to eat healthy." "Do you?" She held up a box of crackers. "These have preservatives. And what's this?" She pulled out a bag of chips. "Stacey, you're carrying precious cargo now. You can't just eat whatever you want." Carl appeared in the doorway, checking his phone. "The doctor wants to see you twice a week instead of once. I've already updated your calendar." "My calendar?" "We synced our phones," Monica explained, not meeting my eyes. "Just so we can coordinate appointments and make sure you're staying on track." I stared at them. "You synced my phone without asking?" "It's for the baby's safety," Carl said. "We need to know where you are, what you're doing. What if something happens and we can't reach you?" "I'm 8 weeks pregnant, not made of glass." Monica's face hardened. "Actually, Stacey, you kind of are. You're carrying our child, our future. You need to start thinking about someone other than yourself." The words stung, but I kept my voice level. "I am thinking about the baby. That's why I'm doing this." "Good. Then you won't mind the other changes." She pulled out her phone. "I have signed you up for prenatal yoga classes, Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I found a nutritionist who specializes in surrogacy cases." "You signed me up?" "I also cancelled your gym membership. Too risky. And that weekend trip you had planned with your college friends? Not happening. You need to prioritize." My hands clenched into fists. Those are my friends. I've been planning that trip for months. And now you have more important things to focus on. Monica's voice turned syrupy sweet. "Come on, Stacey. You're just the vessel here. The baby is what matters. Just the vessel. The words hit me like a slap. I opened my mouth to respond, but Carl's phone rang. It's work, he said, already walking away. Monica, handle this. Handle this. Handle me. Look, Monica said after he left. I know this is an adjustment, but you agreed to this. You wanted to help us, remember? I wanted to help you have a baby. I didn't agree to give up my entire life. It's 9 months, Stacey. 9 months of putting someone else first for once in your life. For once in my life? I'd spent 32 years putting everyone else first. 2 weeks later, the family gathered for Sunday brunch at Mom and Dad's house. The dining room buzzed with conversation as our extended family filled the long table. Aunt Sadie was there with her husband, plus a few family friends who'd known us since childhood. Monica, you look radiant, Mrs. Henderson from down the street gushed. Pregnancy suits you. Monica smiled graciously. Thank you. It's been such a blessing, even with the challenges. I nearly choked on my orange juice. Monica wasn't pregnant. I was. The morning sickness has been terrible. Monica continued, one hand resting on her flat stomach. And the fatigue is overwhelming. That's completely normal, dear, Aunt Sadie said. I remember when I was carrying the twins. Actually, I interrupted, I'm the one who's pregnant. The table went quiet. Monica's smile tightened. Of course, she said quickly. Stacey is our surrogate. She's been so wonderful carrying our baby for us. How generous of you, Stacey, Mrs. Henderson said, but her tone had shifted. Cooler, like I was hired help instead of family. It really is, Mom added. Monica and Carl are giving us such a precious gift, a grandchild to carry on the Campbell name. Stacey's giving you the gift, Aunt Sadie said pointedly. She's the one making the sacrifice. We're all making sacrifices, Monica said. This is a family effort. After brunch, I found myself alone in the kitchen with my cousin Nolan. He was loading dishes into the dishwasher, his lawyer's mind probably already analysing everything he'd witnessed. That was interesting, he said quietly. Which part? Monica taking credit for my pregnancy symptoms, or Mom acting like I'm just the delivery service? Both. He dried his hands and turned to face me. Stacey, are you sure you thought this through? What do you mean? The way they're treating you, the control, the surveillance. This isn't normal surrogacy behaviour. I glanced toward the dining room, where Monica was holding court, with stories about her pregnancy journey. I want everything documented, I said suddenly. Every conversation, every demand, every time they treat me like I'm not a person. Nolan raised an eyebrow. Why? Because I have a feeling I'm going to need proof of what really happened here. He studied my face. What aren't you telling me? Before I could answer, Monica appeared in the doorway, her phone in her hand. Stacey, we need to talk, she said, her voice tight with anger. About what? She held up her phone, showing a photo of me from yesterday. I was sitting in a coffee shop with a muffin and what looked like a latte. Care to explain this? My stomach dropped. You're having me followed? I'm protecting our baby. And you're eating sugar and caffeine when you promised you wouldn't. It was decaf, and one muffin isn't going to hurt anything. That's not the point. Her eyes were cold. You lied to me. You snuck around behind my back. How can I trust you with the most important thing in my life if you can't even follow simple rules? Nolan stepped forward. Monica, this is between me and my sister, Monica snapped. Stacey, I'm disappointed. I thought you understood how serious this is. She turned and walked away, leaving me standing there with my hands shaking. Stacey, Nolan said quietly, what kind of contract did you sign? I looked at him, my mind racing. The kind that's going to teach them exactly who they're dealing with. The ambush came on a Thursday evening. I walked into Mum and Dad's living room expecting a casual family dinner and found myself facing a tribunal. Monica sat in Dad's leather chair like a queen holding court. Mum perched on the edge of the sofa, her spine rigid with purpose. Carl stood by the fireplace, arms crossed. Dad hovered near his desk, and even Paisley, Monica's best friend since high school, was there, clutching a manila folder like evidence in a murder trial. "Sit down, Stacey," Mum said, gesturing to the lone chair they'd positioned in the centre of the room. "What's going on?" "We need to have a serious conversation," Monica said, "about your commitment to this family." I remained standing. "My commitment?" "The coffee shop incident was just the beginning," Paisley said, opening her folder. "We have documentation of multiple violations of your agreement." "What agreement?" "I agreed to carry your baby, not become your prisoner." "You agreed to prioritise our child's health," Carl said, "but you've been reckless, irresponsible." Mum pulled out her own folder. "You missed your prenatal vitamin yesterday morning. You went to bed after 10 p.m. 3 times this week. You had lunch with your friend Sarah without clearing it with us first." "You're tracking my sleep schedule?" "We installed an app on your phone," Monica said matter-of-factly, "for the baby's safety." "You what?" "The point is," Dad interrupted, "we're concerned about your priorities, your commitment to this family's future." Monica leaned forward, her voice taking on that sweet, manipulative tone she'd perfected in childhood. "Stacey, we love you. We're grateful for what you're doing, but we need to know you're all in." "I am all in. I'm literally growing your child inside my body." "Are you?" Paisley asked. "Because from where we're sitting, it looks like you're treating this like it's your baby instead of theirs." "What's that supposed to mean?" Monica stood up, pulling a legal document from behind her back. "It means we need you to sign this." I took the papers, scanning the dense legal text. The words inheritance, relinquishment, and family assets jumped out at me. "You want me to give up my inheritance?" "Not give up," Mum said carefully. "Redirect. Monica is giving this family its future. She's providing the next generation of Campbells. It only makes sense that she should inherit what's meant to secure that future." "I'm providing the next generation. I'm the one who's pregnant." "You're helping," Carl said. "But Monica is the mother. She's the one who will raise the child, love the child, sacrifice for the child for the next 18 years. And you're just the vessel," Paisley added with a smirk. There it was again. Just the vessel. "This is insane," I said, dropping the papers on the coffee table. "You want me to sign away my birthright because I'm doing you a favour?" "It's not a favour," Monica snapped. "It's family obligation. And if you really cared about this family, you'd understand that. The baby needs security," Mum added. "A stable financial foundation. Monica and Carl can provide that. They have the marriage, the home, the commitment to raising a Campbell heir." "And what do I have?" "You have the satisfaction of knowing you helped," Dad said quietly. "Isn't that enough?" I looked around the room at these people, my family, who were asking me to erase myself from our family's future, to become nothing more than a footnote in their story. "I need time to think about this." "There's nothing to think about," Monica said. "Either you're committed to this family or you're not." "And if I'm not?" The room went silent. Carl shifted uncomfortably. "Then maybe we need to reconsider this whole arrangement," Mum said finally. "You take the baby away from me?" "It's not your baby to take," Paisley said. "That's the point." I picked up the papers again, pretending to read while my mind raced. "I'll think about it." "Don't think too long," Monica warned. "We need an answer by Friday." I walked out without another word, clutching the inheritance papers in my shaking hands. An hour later, I sat in Nolan's law office, the documents spread across his desk. They want you to sign this under duress, he said, shaking his head, while you're pregnant and emotionally vulnerable. Can they do this? They can ask, but, Stacey, you don't have to sign anything. He looked up at me. Unless there's something you're not telling me about the surrogacy contract. I met his eyes. Remember when I said I wanted everything documented? Yes. And remember when I said I wanted my own legal counsel? Of course, I drafted your contract myself. Then you remember the clause we discussed, the one about emotional distress and coercion. Nolan's eyes widened. Stacey, what did you do? I protected myself, and now they're about to find out exactly how well. What happens if they trigger the clause? I smiled for the first time in weeks. Then they lose everything. The baby, their money, and their precious family reputation. And you're okay with that? I thought about Monica calling me just the vessel, about them tracking my every move, controlling my food, my sleep, my friendships, about them asking me to erase myself from the family I'd spent my whole life trying to belong to. I'm more than okay with it, I said. I'm counting on it. Nolan leaned back in his chair. They have no idea what's coming, do they? None at all, but they will. My phone buzzed with a text from Paisley. Monica has big plans for after the baby comes. You have no idea what you've gotten yourself into. I showed the message to Nolan. Actually, I said, I know exactly what I've gotten myself into. The question is whether they do. The surveillance escalated after I refused to sign the inheritance papers. I discovered the GPS tracker under my car on a Tuesday morning. A small, black device, no bigger than a matchbox, magnetized to my rear bumper. Found something interesting, I said, walking into Nolan's office with the tracker in my palm. He looked up from his computer. They're tracking your car now? Apparently. And look at this. I showed him my phone. Monica had tagged me in a Facebook post with a photo of a pregnant woman's silhouette. The caption read, When you're just the vessel, but you think you're the captain, just surrogacy reality, or know your role. She posted this publicly. Gets better, check out the comments. Paisley had written, Some people really don't understand boundaries. Mum had added, Family loyalty means knowing your place. Even strangers were chiming in, surrogates who get too attached are the worst, and she's lucky they're even letting her be involved. This is harassment, Nolan said. It's evidence, I corrected. Keep documenting everything. My phone rang. Monica's name flashed on the screen. Where are you? She demanded without greeting. At my lawyer's office. Why? Because it's my job. I do work for a living, remember? Don't get smart with me. You have a doctor's appointment in an hour. I know, I'll be there. You better be. And, Stacey, we need to talk after. About your attitude. She hung up before I could respond. Let me guess, Nolan said. More demands? Always. I stood to leave. But I'm starting to think they're digging their own grave. The doctor's appointment was routine until Monica cornered me in the parking lot afterward. Get in, she said, pointing to her BMW. I have my own car. Get in. I slid into the passenger seat, noting how she immediately locked the doors. We need to discuss your behaviour, she said, not starting the engine. What behaviour? The lawyer visits, the attitude, the way you're acting like this baby belongs to you. I'm acting like a pregnant woman who deserves basic respect. You're acting like an entitled brat. Her voice turned cold. Do you know what people are saying about you? About us? What people? Everyone. The whole family is talking about how you're trying to manipulate this situation, how you're using the baby as leverage. Leverage for what? Money, attention, control. She turned to face me fully. But here's the thing, Stacey. You don't have any control. You never did. You're just the vessel, and vessels don't get to make demands. There it was again, the phrase that cut deeper each time she said it. I'm your sister. You're my employee, and employees who don't follow instructions get fired. You can't fire me from being pregnant. Monica's smile was razor-sharp. Can't I? That evening, I sat in my apartment reviewing the day's events when my doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw Carl standing in the hallway, looking uncomfortable. We need to talk, he said when I opened the door. About what? About how far Monica's pushing this. He stepped inside without invitation. I'm starting to worry she's going too far. Starting to worry? Look, I want this baby. We both do. But some of the things she's doing, the tracking, the social media posts, the way she talks to you. He ran a hand through his hair. It could cause legal problems. Legal problems for who? For all of us. If you decide to fight back. If you get lawyers involved. I already have a lawyer involved. His face went pale. What kind of lawyer? The kind who specialises in protecting people's rights. Stacey, please, can't we work this out as a family? We stopped being family the moment your wife started calling me just the vessel. Carl's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and his expression darkened. What is it? Monica, she wants me to come home. Says she has a new plan to handle the Stacey situation. Handle me? I have to go. He headed for the door, then turned back. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. This isn't what I wanted. But you're not going to stop her. I can't stop Monica when she sets her mind to something. You should know that by now. After he left, I called Nolan. They're planning something, I said. Carl just warned me. What kind of something? I don't know, but Monica has a new plan to handle the Stacey situation. Are you safe? For now, but Nolan, I think it's time. Time for what? To let them know what they're really dealing with. How much trouble they're actually in. Are you sure? Once we play that card, there's no going back. I thought about the GPS tracker, the social media humiliation, Monica's threats, the way they'd all treated me like I was nothing more than a rental womb. I'm sure. Set up the meeting. What meeting? The one where they find out that the quiet Campbell sister isn't as stupid as they thought. Later that night, I was getting ready for bed when I heard voices outside my apartment. I crept to the window and peered through the blinds. Monica and Paisley stood on the sidewalk below, looking up at my building. She thinks she's so smart, Monica was saying, but she has no idea what's coming. Are you sure this will work? Paisley asked. Trust me, by the time I'm done with her, she'll be begging to sign those papers. She'll give up the baby, the inheritance, everything. And if she doesn't, Monica's laugh was cold, then we'll make sure she has no choice. They walked away, leaving me standing at my window with my heart pounding. I picked up my phone and sent Nolan a text. Emergency meeting tomorrow. They just threatened me directly. His response came immediately. Time to show them what happens when you corner a Campbell who actually knows how to fight back. I smiled in the darkness. They had no idea what was coming, but they were about to find out. The family mediation was scheduled for Saturday morning at Mom and Dad's house. I arrived to find the living room arranged like a courtroom, with Monica and Carl on one side, Mom and Dad on the other, and Paisley sitting in the corner with a notebook like some twisted court reporter. Stacey, thank you for coming, Mom said, her voice dripping with false warmth. We've all been so worried about you. Worried about what? Your mental state, Monica said. The stress of pregnancy can cause instability. I sat down in the single chair they'd placed facing all of them. I'm perfectly stable. Are you? Dad pulled out a folder. Because we have evidence that suggests otherwise. Evidence? Paisley opened her notebook. Erratic behaviour, mood swings, paranoid accusations about tracking and surveillance. The tracking isn't paranoid. I found the GPS device. What GPS device? Mom asked innocently. The one you put on my car. Stacy, honey, Monica said in that condescending tone. No one put anything on your car. This is exactly what we're talking about. These delusions. They're not delusions. See? Monica gestured to the others. Aggressive outbursts. Classic signs of prenatal psychosis. Carl leaned forward. We think you need help, Stacy. Professional help. And while you're getting that help, Dad said, sliding papers across the coffee table, we need you to sign these documents for everyone's protection. I glanced at the papers. The inheritance waiver was there, along with new documents I hadn't seen before. What are these? Custody agreements, Monica said. Medical power of attorney. Financial arrangements. You want me to sign over medical decisions to you. We want to make sure the baby is protected if your mental state deteriorates further, Mum explained. My mental state is fine. Is it? Paisley asked. Because you've been meeting with lawyers, making threats, acting like this baby belongs to you instead of Monica and Carl. I haven't made any threats. Haven't you? Monica pulled out her phone. You told Carl that you had lawyers who specialise in protecting people's rights. That sounds like a threat to me. It sounds like someone protecting herself. From what? Dad asked. From family who loves you. From people trying to help you through a difficult time. From people who are treating me like property. There it is again, Monica said to the others. The paranoia, the victim complex. I stood up. I'm not signing anything. Stacy, sit down, Mum commanded. No. You will sit down and you will sign these papers, Monica said, her mask finally slipping. Because if you don't, you'll never see this baby again. Ever. It's my baby too. No, it's not, Monica exploded. It's my egg, my husband's sperm, my family's money paying for everything. You're just the useless vessel we're renting. The room went dead silent. Even Paisley looked shocked at Monica's outburst. Useless vessel, I repeated quietly. Monica, Carl warned, maybe we should... No! Monica was on her feet now, her face flushed with rage. I'm tired of pretending. She's nothing. She's always been nothing. The quiet one, the boring one, the one nobody notices or cares about. And now she thinks carrying my baby makes her special? Monica, stop, Dad said. She's a vessel, a rental womb. And when this is over, she goes back to being exactly what she's always been. Invisible. I looked around the room at my family. Mum had gone pale. Dad was staring at his hands. Carl looked like he wanted to disappear. Paisley was scribbling frantically in her notebook. Is that how you all feel? I asked quietly. No one answered. Mum? Dad? Is that what I am to you? Just a vessel? Stacy, Mum started. Monica is upset. Answer the question. Mum's silence was answer enough. I picked up my purse and headed for the door. Where are you going? Monica demanded. Home. You can't just leave. We're not finished. Yes, we are. If you walk out that door, don't expect to be welcome back. I turned to face her one last time. Monica, you have no idea what you've just done. Is that a threat? It's a promise. I was halfway to my car when my phone rang. Nolan's name appeared on the screen. Perfect timing, I said, answering. Stacy, I just got a very interesting call. From who? Monica's lawyer. Apparently, they want to clarify some terms in the surrogacy contract. I stopped walking. They called you? About 20 minutes ago. Very frantic, asking about specific clauses, penalty provisions, that sort of thing. What did you tell them? That they should probably read the contract more carefully, especially the sections about emotional distress and coercion. And? And now they want an emergency meeting. Tomorrow morning, all parties present. I smiled as I got into my car. They're scared. They should be. Stacey, what exactly happened in there? Monica just called me a useless vessel in front of witnesses. She threatened to keep me from the baby. She admitted they've been treating me like rental property. In front of witnesses? 5 of them, including Paisley, who was taking notes. Nolan was quiet for a moment. Stacey, do you realise what this means? It means they just triggered every protection clause in our contract. It means they just handed you everything. The baby, the money, their reputation, everything. I started my car and pulled out of my parents' driveway, probably for the last time. Good, I said, because it's time they learned that the quiet Campbell sister has been planning this from the very beginning. Are you ready for what comes next? I thought about Monica's face when she called me useless, about the years of being invisible, overlooked, treated like I didn't matter. I've been ready my whole life. Monica showed up at my apartment at 7 in the morning, pounding on the door like the building was on fire. Open up, Stacey. We need to talk. I took my time making coffee before answering. When I finally opened the door, she pushed past me without invitation. What the hell did you do? She demanded. Good morning to you too. Don't play games with me. Your lawyer called our lawyer. Something about penalty clauses and contract violations. What are you trying to pull? I sat down on my couch, cradling my coffee mug. I'm not pulling anything. I'm just protecting my rights. What rights? You're a surrogate. You don't have rights. Actually, I have quite a few rights. Would you like me to explain them? Monica's face was flushed, her hair dishevelled. She looked like she hadn't slept. This is blackmail. No, this is consequences. For what? I set down my mug and looked at her directly. For treating me like property, for calling me a useless vessel, for threatening to keep me from my child. It's not your child. According to the contract I signed, it is. Monica went very still. What do you mean? I mean you should have read the fine print more carefully. What fine print? I stood up and walked to my desk, pulling out a copy of the surrogacy agreement. Section 12, subsection 4. Any attempt to coerce, manipulate, or emotionally abuse the birth mother constitutes a breach of contract. So, when you breach the contract, custody automatically transfers to me, along with a penalty payment of 3 times whatever inheritance you wanted me to sign away. The colour drained from Monica's face. That's impossible. Section 15, subsection 2. Any attempt to isolate the birth mother from family, friends, or legal counsel triggers the same penalties. You can't do this. Section 18 covers surveillance and harassment. That GPS tracker you put on my car, the social media posts, the phone tracking, all violations. Monica sank into my armchair. This isn't real. Contracts don't work like this. They do when you have a good lawyer draft them, and when the other party is too arrogant to read what they're signing. Carl signed that contract too. He'll fight this. Will he? Because he seemed pretty uncomfortable with your behaviour yesterday. Almost like he knew you were going too far. My phone rang. Carl's name appeared on the screen. Speak of the devil, I said, answering. Hello, Carl. Stacey, we need to meet, all of us. Right now. I'm a little busy. This is serious. Monica told me about the contract clauses. We need to work this out. There's nothing to work out. You violated the terms. Now you face the consequences. Please, just give us a chance to fix this. I looked at Monica, who was staring at me with a mixture of rage and panic. Fine. 1 hour, my lawyer's office. Thank you. I hung up and turned back to Monica. You have 1 hour to figure out how you're going to explain this to Mum and Dad. You won't get away with this. I already have. An hour later, we sat in Nolan's conference room. Monica and Carl on one side of the table, me on the other. Nolan had spread the contract documents across the polished wood surface, like evidence in a trial. Let me make sure I understand, Carl said, his voice tight. You're claiming we violated the surrogacy agreement? I'm not claiming anything, I replied. I'm stating facts. You violated multiple clauses. This is extortion, Monica spat. This is contract law, Nolan corrected. Your wife called my client a useless vessel in front of witnesses. She threatened to prevent Stacy from seeing the child. You both engaged in surveillance and harassment. We were protecting our investment. You were abusing the birth mother, Nolan said calmly, which, according to the contract you signed, voids your parental rights and triggers significant financial penalties. Carl leaned forward. What kind of penalties? Full custody to Stacy, plus 3 times the inheritance amount Monica wanted her to sign away. That comes to approximately $2.4 million. Monica made a choking sound. We don't have that kind of money. Then you'll need to liquidate assets. The house, the cars, Carl's business investments. This is insane, Monica turned to me. Stacy, please. We're family. We can work this out. Are we family? Because yesterday you made it very clear that I'm just a rental womb. I was upset. I didn't mean it. You meant every word. Carl's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and his face went ashen. What is it? Monica asked, my business partner. Someone leaked the story to the press. Local businessman's wife abuses surrogate sister. What? It's already trending on social media. Perhaps Vesselgate. Monica grabbed his phone, scrolling through the comments. This is a disaster. My reputation, my social standing. Your reputation? I laughed. You destroyed that yourself when you decided to treat me like property. We can pay you, Carl said desperately. Whatever you want. Just make this go away. I don't want your money, Carl. I want my child. It's not your child. According to the contract, it is. And according to the law, I'm about to become a very wealthy single mother. Monica stood up abruptly. This isn't over. Yes, it is. You think you've won. You think destroying your family makes you the victor. I think getting justice makes me whole. Justice? Monica's voice rose to a shriek. You call this justice? Stealing my baby, ruining my marriage, destroying everything I've worked for. I call it karma. She stormed toward the door, then turned back one last time. I will never forgive you for this. Never. Good, I said, because I'll never forgive you for what you did to me. After they left, Nolan and I sat in silence for a moment. Are you ready for what comes next? He asked. The legal battle? The aftermath. When the dust settles and you're left with the consequences of what you've done. I placed my hand on my growing belly, feeling the baby move for the first time. I'm ready, I said, because for the first time in my life, I'm fighting for something that's actually mine. And if they try to fight back? I smiled. Let them try. They have no idea how much evidence I've been collecting. The formal mediation took place in a sterile conference room downtown, with lawyers lined up like soldiers preparing for war. Monica and Carl sat with their attorney, a sharp-faced woman named Ms. Rivera. Mum and Dad had brought their own counsel, Mr. Peterson, who kept shuffling papers nervously. I sat with Nolan, a stack of evidence boxes beside us. Before we begin, Ms. Rivera said, my clients want to make it clear that they dispute the validity of these so-called penalty clauses. Dispute all you want, Nolan replied, opening the first box. The contract is ironclad. We'll see about that. Nolan pulled out a digital recorder. Let's start with Exhibit A, a recording from the family mediation last Saturday. He pressed play. Monica's voice filled the room, crystal clear. She's just the useless vessel we're renting, Monica flinched. Carl closed his eyes. That's taken out of context, Miss Rivera said quickly. Really? Let's hear more context then. Nolan fast-forwarded. You're nothing. You've always been nothing. The quiet one, the boring one, the one nobody notices or cares about. Monica, Mum whispered, horrified. There's more, Nolan continued. He pulled out printed screenshots. Social media posts referring to my client as just the vessel. Public humiliation designed to isolate and control. Ms. Rivera examined the printouts. Social media posts aren't legally binding. They are when they constitute harassment under the contract terms. Nolan spread out more documents. Text messages between Monica and her friend Paisley discussing plans to handle the Stacy situation. How did you get private text messages? Carl demanded. Paisley provided them, I said calmly. Apparently, she was uncomfortable with how far things had gone. Monica spun around to stare at me. Paisley wouldn't... She did. She's also willing to testify about the conversations she witnessed. This is a setup, Monica said. You planned this from the beginning. I protected myself from the beginning. There's a difference. Mr. Peterson cleared his throat. Perhaps we could discuss a settlement. No settlement, I said firmly. Full custody and the penalty payment. That's what the contract stipulates. The penalty payment will bankrupt us, Carl said. Then you shouldn't have violated the contract. Ms. Rivera leaned forward. My clients are prepared to offer shared custody and a reduced financial settlement. Your clients are in no position to offer anything, Nolan replied. He pulled out another folder. GPS tracking device found on my client's vehicle, phone surveillance without consent, attempted coercion regarding inheritance documents. We were protecting our investment, Monica exploded. You were abusing a pregnant woman, Nolan shot back, and now you're facing the consequences. Dad spoke for the first time. Stacy, please, think about what you're doing to this family. What I'm doing? What about what you all did to me? We made mistakes. You treated me like property. You called me useless. You tried to erase me from the family I've spent my whole life trying to belong to. That's not what we meant. It's exactly what you meant. I stood up, my voice rising. For 32 years, I've been the invisible daughter, the one who takes notes at meetings, helps with applications, cleans up everyone else's messes. And when I finally do something important, something that matters, you reduce me to a rental room. Stacy, Mum said, tears in her eyes, we love you. No, you don't. You love what I can do for you. But you don't love me. The room fell silent except for the hum of the air conditioning. Ms. Rivera tried again. Perhaps if we could arrange... Her phone buzzed, then Carl's, then Mum's, all at once, like an alarm system going off. Carl looked at his screen and went pale. The story just broke nationally. What story? Dad asked. Wealthy families, surrogate abuse scandal rocks community. Carl read. Sister calls. Sister useless vessel in shocking audio recording. Monica grabbed his phone. They have the recording. Someone leaked it, Mum said, staring at her own screen. It's everywhere. Twitter, Facebook, the local news websites. The audio is viral, Carl continued, scrolling frantically. 2 million views in the last hour. Ms. Rivera was reading her phone too. My office is getting calls from reporters. They want statements. This is a disaster, Dad said quietly. This is justice, I corrected. Monica turned on me, her face twisted with rage. You did this. You leaked the story. I didn't have to. You did this to yourself when you decided to treat me like garbage. You've destroyed everything. My reputation, my marriage, my future. You destroyed mine first. I gave you a chance to be part of something important. You gave me a chance to be your incubator. Carl's phone rang. He answered it, his face growing more ashen by the second. That was my business partner, he said after hanging up. The board wants me to resign. The scandal is affecting company stock. Good, I said. Good? Monica shrieked. You're destroying innocent people. Innocent? You tracked my every move. You controlled what I ate, where I went, who I talked to. You tried to steal my inheritance and then called me useless when I wouldn't comply. We were protecting our baby. It's not your baby anymore. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Ms. Rivera closed her files. I need to speak with my clients privately. Take all the time you need, Nolan said. The contract terms don't change. As they filed out for their private conference, Mom lingered behind. Stacey, she said softly, is there any way to fix this? I looked at the woman who had raised me, who had spent my entire life making me feel like I wasn't enough. You could have fixed it by treating me like your daughter instead of your servant. We did treat you like our daughter. No, Mom, you treated Monica like your daughter. You treated me like the help. She left without another word. Nolan and I sat alone in the conference room, surrounded by the evidence of my family's cruelty and my own calculated revenge. Any regrets? He asked. I placed my hand on my belly, feeling the baby kick. Ask me again in a few months, I said, when I'm holding my daughter and they're explaining to the world why they thought it was okay to treat family like property. And if they never forgive you? Then I'll raise my child to know that some things are more important than family approval, like self-respect. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. You think you've won, but this isn't over. You'll pay for what you've done to us. I showed it to Nolan. Monica? He asked. Probably. But it doesn't matter. Let her threaten me. The whole world knows who she really is now. And who are you? I smiled, feeling truly powerful for the first time in my life. I'm the Campbell daughter who finally learned how to fight back. The baby arrived on a Tuesday morning in October, 3 weeks early and screaming like she already knew she was born into a war zone. She's perfect, the nurse said, placing my daughter on my chest. 7 pounds, 2 ounces. I stared down at her tiny face, her dark hair matted against her head, and felt something shift inside me. This wasn't about revenge anymore. This was about love. What's her name? The nurse asked. Grace, I said without hesitation. Grace Campbell. The door opened and Nolan walked in, carrying flowers and wearing the biggest smile I'd ever seen on his serious face. How are my girls? He asked. We're perfect. He pulled up a chair beside the bed. Any word from them? Radio silent since the settlement was finalised. The final mediation had been swift and brutal. Faced with mounting legal fees, public humiliation, and Carl's business partners threatening to cut ties, they'd agreed to my terms. Full custody to me, the penalty payment deposited into a trust fund for Grace, and a legally binding agreement that they would have no contact with either of us unless I initiated it. Good, Nolan said, gently touching Grace's tiny hand. You both deserve peace. A knock at the door interrupted us. A hospital volunteer peered in. Ms. Campbell, there's someone here to see you. Says she's your aunt. Aunt Sadie walked in, carrying a stuffed elephant and looking nervous. I hope it's okay that I came, she said. I know things are complicated right now. It's more than okay. I shifted Grace so Sadie could see her better. Meet your great niece. Sadie's eyes filled with tears. She's beautiful, Stacey. Absolutely beautiful. How did you know I was here? Hospital records are public if you know where to look. She sat down carefully. I wanted you to know that not everyone in this family thinks you're the villain. What's the word from the Campbell compound? Helen's been in bed for a week. Won't come out, won't take calls. Patrick's been fielding calls from reporters and lawyers. And Monica? She paused. Monica and Carl are getting divorced. I felt a flicker of something, not quite satisfaction, but not sympathy either. I'm sorry to hear that. Are you? I'm sorry their marriage couldn't survive the truth about who they really are. Sadie nodded. The truth has a way of destroying things that weren't built to last. She stayed for an hour, holding Grace and telling me stories about my grandmother, the original strong Campbell woman who'd built the family fortune through grit and determination. She would have been proud of you, Sadie said as she prepared to leave. Standing up for yourself, protecting your child. That's what Campbell women do. Even when it means destroying the family. Especially then. Sometimes you have to burn down the old house to build something better. That evening, as I was nursing Grace, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I saw the news about the baby. Congratulations. She's lucky to have you as her mother. Carl. I stared at the message for a long moment, then deleted it without responding. Another text came an hour later, this one from Monica. I hope you're happy. You got everything you wanted. I looked down at Grace, sleeping peacefully in my arms, then typed back, I got everything I needed. The response came immediately. This isn't over, Stacey. Someday you'll pay for what you did to us. I screenshot the message and forwarded it to Nolan with a note. For the restraining order file. Then I blocked Monica's number and turned off my phone. The next morning brought an unexpected visitor. Dad stood in my hospital room doorway, looking older than I'd ever seen him. Patrick, I said, not calling him Dad. Not anymore. May I come in? I nodded toward the chair. He sat down heavily and stared at Grace for a long moment. She looks like you did as a baby, he said quietly. What do you want? To apologize. To try to explain. There's nothing to explain. You chose Monica over me. You always chose Monica over me. That's not true. Isn't it? When did you ever stand up for me? When did you ever tell Mom to stop treating me like the hired help? When did you ever make me feel like I mattered? He was quiet for a long time. I failed you, he said finally. I failed as a father, and I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't undo 32 years of neglect. No, it doesn't. He stood up. But maybe it's a start. A start to what? To earning the right to know my granddaughter. I looked at him. This man who'd spent my entire life being absent even when he was present. That's up to Grace, I said, when she's old enough to decide for herself. He nodded and walked to the door, then turned back. For what it's worth, Stacey, you were right about all of it. I know. After he left, I sat alone with Grace, watching her sleep. My phone, which I'd turned back on, buzzed with a notification. Someone had sent me a news article. Campbell family surrogate scandal. Where are they now? The article detailed Monica's fall from social grace, Carl's business troubles, and my own transformation from quiet sister to fierce mother. The comment section was brutal. Hundreds of people calling Monica and my parents monsters, praising me for standing up to them. But reading it didn't feel like victory. It felt like the end of something that had been broken for a very long time. A nurse knocked and entered with a manila envelope. This was delivered for you, she said. Inside was a single sheet of paper with no return address. You think you've won, but children grow up asking questions about their families. What will you tell her when she asks why her grandparents don't love her? I crumpled the paper and threw it in the trash. Then I picked up Grace and whispered in her ear, I'll tell you that some people don't know how to love properly, but you'll never have to wonder if you're loved, because you'll feel it every single day. Grace opened her eyes and looked at me, and I swear she smiled. When you weaponize love, you only inherit war, I said softly. But I'm ready, because now it's my family to protect. Outside my hospital window, the world continued spinning. Somewhere, Monica was probably plotting her next move. Mom was hiding from the consequences of her choices. Dad was learning what it felt like to lose a daughter. But in this room, holding my daughter, I felt something I'd never experienced before. Complete and total peace. I had won. Not because I'd destroyed them, but because I'd finally learned to value myself enough to fight back. And that was worth everything.
A waiter with a professional smile approached me. "Are you the bride's sister? I've been instructed to escort you to your seat." He led me to a small chair placed directly beside the restroom entrance. Alone. The tears I had been fighting back surged again, pressing harder behind my eyes. I blinked once, then twice, trying desperately to contain them. But the third time, my self-control shattered completely. Without saying a word, I turned away and rushed into the nearby restroom. I remembered how I had driven 10 hours through a raging snowstorm just to surprise my sister at her engagement party. In the passenger seat, I had secured a custom-made cake, carefully boxed. But they didn't want me there. After everything I had done for my family, what are you supposed to do when they betray you like this? Let me tell you what happened recently. I had worked the night shift the day before. As soon as I finished, I hit the road to be there for my sister's big moment. There was barely any room for me in the car because of the large white bakery box nestled on the passenger seat. Catherine had once said she dreamed of having a raspberry champagne cake for her special day. So I saved up 3 months of my caregiver salary just to order it in the morning. Through sleet, through ice, through roads so tense with danger they seemed to turn white, with fear I gripped the steering wheel so tightly my fingers cramped. All I wanted was to see her face light up the moment she saw I had arrived. I couldn't wait for that. I only stopped once for gas and coffee. In the grimy gas station restroom, I changed into the only good dress I owned. My coat was damp and heavy on my shoulders. When I finally arrived at the mansion in the suburbs, my old sedan creaked across the fresh snow. The venue stood like a dream straight out of a bridal magazine. Crystal lights twined around marble columns, and violin music drifted through the frost-kissed air. My heart swelled. This night will be unforgettable, I thought. But not in the way I had imagined. I handed my keys to the valet. He glanced at my modest car. "Are you with the catering staff?" Shame burned in my chest, but I forced a smile. "No, I'm family." Even that moment left a small bruise. To be judged just by my car. But that was only the beginning. Then I saw her, Catherine, wearing a blush pink silk gown, her hair flawlessly styled. She was laughing with one of Douglas's groomsmen. But the moment her eyes found mine, her smile vanished. "You actually came?" she asked. 10 hours in a blizzard?" I said, trying to sound cheerful despite the knot in my stomach. "Surprise." She didn't even glance at the cake. "I really didn't expect you to come in this weather." I carefully placed the cake on a side table already crowded with elegant pastries. "But I did. It's your wedding. There's no way I would miss it." Catherine blinked. Behind her, her friend Kristin leaned in and said, loudly and deliberately, "She wasn't actually on the guest list, was she?" I fought to keep my face neutral. That's when I noticed Catherine didn't look surprised. She looked irritated. "I need to go check on something," she muttered, and disappeared into the crowd. I stood there, frozen, as guests flowed around me as if I were just another inconvenient column. I spotted my mother, Diane, standing by the marble fireplace, adorned in pearls and designer silk. She offered a cold touch to my cheek, then whispered through tight lips, "Don't draw attention to yourself, okay? Tonight is Catherine's moment." My smile felt like it might crack like glass. Of course. Her eyes dropped to the damp hem of my dress, and a crease of disapproval formed on her brow. Douglas passed by, looking flawless in his tailored suit. I smiled at the man who would soon be my brother-in-law. He gave me only the briefest nod in acknowledgement. I walked deeper into the venue, each step dragging my heart lower. Along the walls were professionally framed engagement photos. My face wasn't in a single one. Near the champagne fountain, I overheard snippets of conversation. "She's always so dramatic. Every successful family has one disappointment. Maybe she thinks wearing scrubs every day entitles her to some kind of spotlight." Their laughter cut through me like a scalpel. I found the coat check to leave my damp outerwear. On a silver tray were gift boxes labeled bridal party. 10 exquisitely wrapped boxes, each with a personalized card. I checked twice. My name wasn't among them. A sharp, indescribable pain tightened in my chest. I sank onto a velvet bench. My phone buzzed. A group message. The bridal party thread. "She doesn't fit our aesthetic. Tell her all positions are filled." It was sent from Catherine's number. My throat closed. A fire burned behind my eyes. I stumbled back outside, gulping in the freezing air as if it could numb the pain spreading in my chest. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was intentional exclusion. My fingers trembled not from the cold, but from the words seared into my mind. Catherine's words. I stared at the screen, wishing I hadn't seen it. I didn't reply. I just deleted the message. But the wound had already carved itself into my heart. Even though the screen went dark, those cruel words echoed in my head like a mantra of pain. I gathered myself, drew in a deep, aching breath, and stepped back into the glittering banquet hall. I moved slowly, trying to figure out how to exist in a space that clearly didn't want me there. The music swelled, the bass vibrating through the polished marble floor. A perfectly curated celebration playlist. Cheerful voices rang out from the center of the room, where Catherine and her friends gathered around a tower of crystal champagne glasses. Her back was to me. Under the chandelier, I could see her practiced smile shining brightly. It would never be directed at me. Elegant tables filled the vast room, each one adorned with silk runners, flickering candles, and handwritten place cards. I checked every table, twice. My name was nowhere to be found, not misspelled, not forgotten, just erased. Then, once again, the waiter with the professional smile approached me. "Are you the bride's sister? I've been asked to escort you." He led me to a tiny chair placed just beside the entrance to the restroom. Alone. On the small side table next to me sat a paper cup filled with water. From my isolated corner, I watched the slideshow projected on the far wall. Photos from Catherine's childhood cycled her kindergarten graduation, her high school prom, family vacations. Not a single image included my face. I had been completely edited out of her life story. The waiter brushed past me, his arm grazing mine as he moved without pause. The water in his tray splashed onto my dress. I shifted closer to the wall. Even the cold plaster felt more welcoming than the people who shared my blood. The tears I had been fighting surged once more, burning behind my eyes. I blinked once, then twice, but on the third blink, I lost all control. Without uttering a word, I turned and fled into the restroom, just a step away. Inside a stall, I sank against the cold tile wall. I locked the door and clutched my still damp coat in my fists. The tears came slowly. They left fiery trails down my chilled cheeks. I didn't make a sound. Not even a whisper. Only quiet tears, the kind I had cried for years without anyone noticing. I don't know how long I sat there. Eventually, I wiped my face with my sleeve. I inhaled a breath meant to steady myself. The kind of breath you take before going into battle, even when you know you're outnumbered but refuse to surrender. As I stepped out of the restroom and tried to return to my seat, the usual buzz of the venue suddenly dimmed. It was replaced by the sound of scattered voices overpowering the background music. For a moment, I thought someone was about to begin a speech. But it was just conversation. The bride and groom were still on stage, but apparently someone had accidentally left a microphone on. No one seemed to have noticed yet. The party continued as normal. Just as I reached my seat, a voice hit my ears. One I knew too well. My sister's voice. Catherine. It wasn't whispered. It was loud, spoken into the center stage microphone. She stood in the middle of the room, holding a champagne glass high. Christine stood beside her. Then I heard my name. I can't believe Allison actually showed up. She's ruined everything. Public humiliation has a sting that never fades. I froze. I couldn't move. Every head turned to look at me. Now I could see Catherine clearly. Her perfect curls bounced every time she gestured with theatrical flair. Christine stood beside her, grinning. I can't believe she actually came, Christine said loudly, her voice ringing across the quiet room. Catherine laughed, and her eyes locked onto mine. 10 hours in a snowstorm for what? To sit by the restroom door? Scattered laughter sliced through me like shattered glass. Cruel, deliberate. She's always so desperate to be included. God, if only she'd gotten into an accident along the way, this would have been so much easier. She giggled again and lifted her glass even higher. Just imagine how much sympathy I would have received, and finally, a little peace and quiet. Her words landed like grenades across the room. The laughter that followed wasn't just mean. It was rehearsed cruelty. The room began to shift. Some guests looked visibly uncomfortable. Douglas's face had gone pale. I stood frozen. Under the crushing weight of 100 pairs of eyes, my body refused to move. The cake I had brought tied with a gold ribbon I had carefully chosen during a night shift break sat untouched. A stunning 3-tier raspberry cake, adorned with crystallized flowers and a banner that read, "To love, to family, to forever." Still perfect, still unseen. I felt the weight of years of rejection pressing against my chest. Flashes of memories lit up in my mind, forgotten birthdays, dismissed achievements, unnoticed sacrifices. I wanted to disappear, to run, to sink through the floor beneath me. But then, a voice cut through the silence. "Excuse me." A distinguished older woman with silver hair stepped forward from the crowd. Elizabeth. Douglas's mother. I recognized her, though I couldn't quite remember where we had met. Elizabeth didn't look at me. She stared directly at Catherine, her expression cold and deliberate. "Did you just say," she asked, her voice resonating clearly through the silent room, "that you wished your sister would have gotten into a car accident?" Catherine's smile faltered. "It was just a joke, Elizabeth. You know how sisters tease each other." Elizabeth then turned to me. Her eyes softened with recognition. "Allison? Allison from Sunset Gardens Care Facility?" I nodded faintly, confusion mixing with the shame burning inside me. She had been someone I cared for. "This woman," Elizabeth said, pointing at me, "took care of me 3 years ago when I was fighting for my life." The room held its breath. After my surgery, she looked after me for 3 months. She stayed long after her shifts were over. Elizabeth continued, unwavering and composed. No one else could comfort me, but she sat with me for hours. When I couldn't sleep, she read to me. When I felt I might not recover, her kindness gave me strength. Douglas turned to look at his mother, then at me. his eyes lit with sudden recognition. I opened my mouth. My threadbare dress stood in sharp contrast to their designer gowns. "May I say something?" Catherine's face turned ghostly pale. The room went silent, like a hospital corridor at midnight. "I drove 10 hours through a snowstorm after a night shift," I began. My voice, to my surprise, was steady. "I brought a cake that cost half my monthly rent. And while you wished aloud publicly that I died in an accident, it still sits there, untouched." I pointed toward the cake box as I spoke. A wave of audible gasps rippled through the room. Christine choked on her mimosa. Mom's face turned a ghostly shade of pale. Elizabeth turned back toward Catherine, and her voice hardened like ice. "You mean to tell me that, even after your sister brought you a cake, you still wished she'd gotten into a car accident? Is this how you treat a sister who goes to such lengths for your sake?" Her voice cracked with emotion. "I'm sorry, but we cannot welcome someone who treats her own sister this way into our family." Catherine stammered. I didn't mean." "Douglas," Elizabeth interrupted, not taking her eyes off my sister, "I believe we need to have a serious conversation about this marriage." Douglas gave a firm nod. His jaw clenched. "I think you're absolutely right, Mom." Catherine's perfect world was crumbling around her. The atmosphere shifted. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was conclusive. It felt like cleansing, like release. Her cruel words still echoed faintly in the corners of my mind, but they already felt distant. Like the final gust of wind before a storm at last gives way to calm, that night I hardly slept. Not because of anxiety, but because something inside me had finally settled into place. The weight I had carried for years had been lifted. On a spring morning, with the snow finally melted, there came a knock at my door. When I opened it, to my surprise, it was Elizabeth. Douglas' mother stood on my porch in a refined coat, her calm smile unwavering as I stood frozen. "May I come in, Allison?" she asked gently. I welcomed her into my small apartment. On the table sat a bouquet of daisies I had picked up after finishing my shift the night before. "Douglas and Catherine's wedding has been officially called off," she said quietly. "I wanted to tell you myself." I wasn't shocked. I had expected to feel some cold satisfaction, but instead, I only felt a quiet, freeing peace. "She returned the engagement ring," Elizabeth continued. "Douglas realized he couldn't share his life with someone like her. The way she treated you, it revealed her true character." Outside the window, spring rain gently washed the streets clean. It felt like a symbol of renewal. A few days later, I received a long email from my mother. It was mostly filled with blame and fury, but hidden within it was a mention of Catherine. "She cries every day. Her friends have turned their backs on her. Even Christine won't answer her calls. She's losing followers on social media. You've ruined her life." I didn't respond. They still refused to see the truth. In their eyes, I was still the problem. And she was still the victim. 1 week later, I returned home from work to find Catherine sitting outside my apartment. She wasn't wearing designer clothes. Just a pair of plain blue jeans and a hoodie. Her makeup was imperfect. Her eyes were red and puffy. "Can I talk to you?" she asked in a quiet, shaky voice. I let her in, but the tension didn't disappear. As she entered, she didn't try to dominate the space like she once would have. She shrank into the edges of the room, avoiding eye contact. This version of her wounded, vulnerable, stripped of her glow felt like a stranger. "Have a seat," I said. I didn't bother to soften my tone. I had decided I was done performing. She sat at my kitchen table, tracing the grain of the wood with her fingertips. "I've lost everything," she whispered, her voice cracking. "Not just Douglas. My friends, my job, my followers, the video from the party leaked. The things I said. You mean the part where you wished I died in an accident? I asked calmly. She closed her eyes and nodded. Everyone's abandoned me. Kristin just told me you brought this on yourself. She said I've been permanently blacklisted from the elite circle. No one wants to be associated with me anymore. Do you know what Elizabeth did? I asked. She contacted every one of the wealthy clients I've ever cared for. She told them exactly what you said, exactly how you behaved. Catherine's face was drained of color. Your brand now? I said. It's the woman who abused a caregiver. If this had been the old me, I would have comforted her. I would have told her it would be okay. I would have slipped right back into the role of the sister who sacrificed herself for family. But I didn't feel that need anymore. Why did you say those things? I asked. Did you really wish I'd died? No, she cried, tears running down her face. I thought everyone would laugh. That's all. I wanted to impress them. I didn't even think about you. That's the point, Catherine, I said. You've never thought about me. Not during the 10-hour drive. Not when I bought that custom cake. Not when I made all those sacrifices for you. To you, I was just a prop, something to pull out when convenient. Her shoulders shook as she sobbed. I'm being held responsible for all the cancellation fees from the wedding. There's no way I can pay them all. I asked Mom for help, but her credit cards are maxed out. She blames me every day. She continued, I need help. What can I do to be forgiven? Do you want forgiveness from me? Or do you just want forgiveness from the world? The question silenced her. A heavy pause fell between us. What should I do? She finally begged. How do I fix this? You don't, I said gently. But you can learn from it. You can grow. She nodded, weeping. Can I stay the night? I can't afford a hotel anymore. I looked into her eyes. I saw real regret, real fear. But I also knew I was no longer responsible for her emotions. No, you can't. You need to go home, face Mom. The two of you need to take responsibility for how you treated me. But Allison, that's enough, I said, rising to my feet. I have to head out now. My night shift starts soon. The pain that flickered across her face would have once broken me. But not anymore. Tell Mom this. I'm no longer going to be used at her convenience. In the days that followed, Catherine's scandal spread rapidly across social media. Her carefully curated image crumbled. Former friends began deleting photos of her from their accounts. Months later, I spotted her by chance at a local supermarket. She stood behind a cash register, wearing a store uniform. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. The shine she once carried was gone. Our eyes met for a brief moment. She looked away, visibly ashamed. I'd heard she had moved out of the family home and into a small apartment. She was working full-time and taking night classes at a community college, hoping to earn a degree in marketing. All of her social media accounts had been deleted. One evening, sitting in my new apartment, larger, brighter, with a view of the park through wide windows, I wrote in my journal, it took me 32 years to understand that validation comes not from others, but from within. I spent so long begging for someone else to see my worth, because I hadn't yet learned to see it myself. From time to time, I still receive short messages from Catherine. Not real apologies, more like vague hopes for a deeper connection. But I no longer need them. Meanwhile, my mother's world was also starting to crack. The party video had gone viral, and her standing in her social circles began to unravel. A few days ago, I received her first apology. It wasn't sincere. It was soaked in resentment born from her fall from grace. Why would you do this to me? She wrote. My friends are ignoring me. My club membership is at risk. What did I ever do to deserve this from you? My reply was simple. Mom, it's what you didn't do that was the problem. Her social isolation continued. She was no longer invited to the seasonal tea parties she used to host. Donations to her charity efforts had plummeted. Eventually, she announced her retirement due to health reasons and moved into a modest home in the suburbs. Our relationship remained broken, but it no longer pained me. She still reaches out occasionally, though only in surface-level ways. She still doesn't fully acknowledge her behavior. But I no longer require that of her. I now stand confidently in the life I've chosen. I know my worth, and more importantly, I've learned to protect it. No longer am I the woman who drives 10 hours through a snowstorm and sacrifices everything just to be dismissed. Now, I am a woman who sets boundaries and honors her own value. Elizabeth visits sometimes. We sit over cups of tea and share peaceful conversations. Recently, she told me, "By standing your ground, you gave Catherine the greatest gift." She's finally learning to face the consequences of her actions. I never needed my family's approval to know I was worthy. It was always there every time I held a patient's hand, every time I eased someone's pain, and ultimately, when I chose to care for myself. Now, when I look in the mirror, I see the strength I once missed. It was always there. Like a seed buried beneath snow, unseen, but very much alive, just waiting for the right moment to grow. One morning, I walked to a small bakery down the street. I took my time, breathing in the crisp, clean air that filled my lungs. I ordered a small cake, just for me. Nothing fancy or elaborate. A simple vanilla cake with white frosting. No dedication. No special occasion. Back at my apartment, I lit a single candle, cut a generous slice, and sat by the window. I didn't make a wish. I didn't need to. I simply savored each bite, fully present in the moment. Outside, the last patches of snow were melting, revealing fresh green shoots underneath. Not all new beginnings come with fireworks. Some only need quiet courage. And this beginning, this one is truly mine.
Some betrayals hit you like a freight train. Others creep up slowly, like carbon monoxide poisoning. You don't realize you're dying until it's too late. My family chose the freight train approach. My name is Taylor, and I'm about to tell you how my parents destroyed my life over a family dinner and how I spent 5 years making sure they'd regret it forever. Picture this. March 15th, 2018. I'm 33, single mom to 10-year-old Georgia, sitting in my parents' dining room with my hands literally shaking as I clutch a folder full of bank statements. $28,000. Every penny I'd scraped together working double shifts at the insurance office and weekend catering gigs. 2 years of eating ramen noodles and shopping at thrift stores. 2 years of telling Georgia we couldn't afford the school field trip or new sneakers because Mommy was saving for something special. "Tell her, Renee," my mother Josephine said, practically vibrating with excitement. She was wearing that smile, the one she reserved for announcing other people's good fortune. Never mine. Dad cleared his throat. "Well, Taylor, you know how proud we are of your dedication, your savings discipline." I nodded, my heart hammering. This was it. They were going to match my down payment like they'd promised. Georgia and I would finally have our own home. "But," Dad continued, and that single word made my stomach drop, "we've decided the money would be better invested in Tiffany's future." The folder slipped from my hands, bank statements scattering across their polished table. What? My sister Tiffany, 28 and glowing with that effortless beauty I'd never possessed, leaned forward with fake concern. "Taylor, don't look so shocked. This is actually amazing news for all of us." "I don't understand." My voice sounded small, foreign. Mom clapped her hands together. "Tiffany's going to Southeast Asia, a whole year of travel, finding herself, exploring her artistic potential. Can you imagine? Our daughter, experiencing the world." "Your daughter," I whispered. What was that, dear? Nothing. I looked at Georgia, who was quietly coloring at the kids' table in the corner, oblivious to the bomb that had just detonated her future. How much? 30,000, Tiffany said, not even trying to hide her smugness. Plus the emergency fund Mom and Dad set aside. You know, just in case I need to extend the trip or take some workshops with local artists. $50,000. The exact amount they'd promised to match for my house. But you said, I started. We said we'd help with your housing situation, Dad interrupted. And we are. You can stay in your apartment a little longer. It's not like you're homeless. Renee's right, Mom added. You're so practical, Taylor. You'll figure something out. You always do. But Tiffany, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. She's got such talent, such potential. We can't let that go to waste. I stared at my sister, who was examining her manicured nails with studied nonchalance. When do you leave? Next week. She looked up with bright eyes. I'm so grateful. I know this is hard for you to understand, but some of us need more than just routine. Some of us have bigger dreams. The words hit like a slap. Georgia looked up from her coloring book, sensing the tension. Mommy, are we getting our house? The silence stretched until it became unbearable. I stood up, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. No, baby, we're not getting our house. But you saved all that money. I know. I gathered the scattered bank statements, my hands steady now. Funny how rage can cure trembling. Grandma and Grandpa decided to give it to Aunt Tiffany instead. Taylor! Mom's voice was sharp. Don't make this about what? About promises? About the fact that I've been working myself to death for 2 years while you told me how proud you were of my dedication? You're being dramatic, Tiffany said, rolling her eyes. It's not like the money was actually yours. I looked at her, really looked at her, at her designer clothes, her perfect hair, her complete lack of awareness that she'd just stolen my daughter's future. Then I looked at my parents, who were avoiding eye contact like guilty children. You're right, I said quietly. It wasn't mine, but it will be. I took Georgia's hand. Come on, sweetheart. We're going home. As we walked to the door, I heard Mom call after us. Taylor, don't be like this. Family is more important than money. I paused, my hand on the doorknob, and turned back one last time. You're absolutely right, Mom. Family is more important than money. Remember you said that. I meant every word. They would remember. I'd make sure of it. The next morning, I called my boss at 7 a.m. Janet, it's Taylor. I need to pick up more hours. Whatever you've got. Taylor, you're already working 45 hours a week. Are you sure? I'm sure, and I want to start training for the commercial accounts, the ones that pay commission. There was a pause. Okay, come in early today. We'll talk. I hung up and looked at Georgia, who was eating cereal at our tiny kitchen table. Our apartment suddenly felt smaller, shabbier. The peeling linoleum, the secondhand furniture, the single bedroom we shared. It all pressed in on me like a weight. Mom, why did Grandma and Grandpa give our house money to Aunt Tiffany? I sat down across from her, choosing my words carefully. Sometimes adults make decisions that don't make sense, baby. But we're going to be okay. Better than okay. Are you mad at them? I'm disappointed. But I'm not going to waste time being mad. I'm going to fix this. That afternoon, I met my best friend Michaela at the coffee shop near her law office. She took one look at my face and ordered me a double shot. They actually did it, I said, sliding the bank statements across the table. $50,000. Gone. Michaela whistled low. Jesus, Taylor, I'm so sorry. Don't be sorry. Help me figure out what to do next. She studied the papers. You've got good credit, steady income. You could still qualify for an FHA loan. Maybe put down 3% instead of 20%. The payments would be brutal, and I'd be house poor for years. There's another option. Michaela leaned forward. Real estate investment. Start small. Buy a fixer-upper, live in it while you renovate, Then sell or rent it out. Use the profits to buy the next one. With what money? They took everything. You've got $5,000 left in savings. It's not much, but it's enough for a down payment on something really rough, something other investors won't touch. I stared at her. You're talking about flipping houses. I'm talking about building wealth, real wealth, the kind your parents can't take away because they don't even know you have it. That night, I enrolled in an online real estate course. Georgia fell asleep to the sound of me typing notes about market analysis and renovation costs. When my phone buzzed with a text from Mom, "Hope you're not still upset about dinner," Tiffany posted the most amazing photos from Bangkok. I deleted it without reading the whole thing. 2 weeks later, I was standing in the doorway of the most disgusting house I'd ever seen. The realtor, a tired-looking woman named Sandra, was trying to put a positive spin on the mold stains and broken windows. "It's got good bones," she said, "and the neighborhood's up and coming." "How up and coming?" "Well, there's a Starbucks going in 6 blocks away." The house was a disaster. Water damage, electrical issues, a kitchen that looked like it hadn't been updated since 1975. But it was in my price range, and more importantly, it was mine. Not my parents', not Tiffany's. Mine. "I'll take it," I said. Sandra blinked. "Don't you want to think about it? Maybe get an inspection?" "I've thought about it." That evening, Michaela came over with a bottle of wine and a stack of contractor business cards. "You're insane," she said, but she was smiling. "Completely insane." "Good. Sane people don't get revenge." "Is that what this is? Revenge?" I poured myself a glass of wine and looked around our cramped apartment. "This is survival. The revenge comes later." My phone rang. Dad's name flashed on the screen. "Taylor? Your mother wanted me to call. She's worried about you." "I'm fine, Dad. You haven't returned any of our calls. And you missed Sunday dinner." "I've been busy." "Busy with what? You're not still upset about the money, are you? Because Tiffany really needed this opportunity." "Dad, I have to go. Georgia needs help with homework." "Taylor, wait. Your mother thinks maybe we should all sit down and talk." I hung up. Georgia looked up from her math worksheet. "Was that Grandpa?" "Yeah." "Are you going to call him back?" "No, baby, I'm done calling them back." I opened my laptop and pulled up the real estate course. Lesson 12. How to calculate return on investment. I had work to do. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a notification from Instagram. Tiffany had posted a photo of herself on a beach in Thailand, cocktail in hand, caption reading, "Living my best life. So grateful for family who believe in following your dreams. Blessed nostal wanderlust, nostal family love." I screenshot the post and saved it to a folder I'd created called Evidence. They wanted to see dreams come true? I'd show them dreams, just not the ones they were expecting. 6 months into Tiffany's journey of self-discovery, my phone had become a constant source of irritation. Every few days, Mom would text me screenshots of Tiffany's Instagram posts like they were family Christmas cards. "Look at our girl in Vietnam. Isn't she glowing?" "Tiffany's learning pottery from local artisans in Cambodia. So cultured." "Your sister's teaching English to children in Laos. We're so proud." I'd gotten good at deleting them without looking, but Georgia had started noticing. "Why don't we ever see Aunt Tiffany's pictures?" she asked one morning, watching me swipe away another notification. "Because Aunt Tiffany's very busy finding herself," I said, stirring instant oatmeal. We were living on $5 a day for food while I poured every extra penny into the house renovation. "When will she find herself?" "When the money runs out." Georgia tilted her head. "What money?" "Nothing, baby. Eat your breakfast." The house was slowly coming together. I'd spent weekends learning to tile, to paint, to install fixtures. My hands were permanently stained with primer, and my back ached constantly. But the place was starting to look livable. More than livable. It was starting to look good. Michaela stopped by one Saturday afternoon while I was grouting the bathroom floor. "Taylor, you need to see this," she said, holding up her phone. It was Tiffany's latest post, a video of her crying in what looked like a hotel room. The caption read, "Sometimes the journey gets hard. Grateful for family who support me through the tough times. Money isn't everything, but it sure helps when you're following your dreams. Chuck struggles, Chuck just blessed, Chuck a family support." "She's asking for more money," I said. In the comments, look, I scrolled down. Dozens of supportive messages. And then Mom's response. "Anything for our baby girl. Dad's wiring more funds tomorrow. Love you." My grip tightened on the phone. How much more could they possibly have? Want me to run a credit check? Can you do that? I'm a lawyer, Taylor. I can do lots of things. 3 days later, Michaela called me at work. "Your parents took out a second mortgage," she said without preamble. $40,000. Last month. I nearly dropped the phone. What? And they've got 3 new credit cards, all maxed out. Taylor, they're in deep. That evening, I was helping Georgia with her science project when my phone rang. Mom's name flashed on the screen. I almost didn't answer. "Taylor, honey, I need to ask you something." "What?" "Well, your father and I are having a little cash flow problem. Nothing serious, just temporary. But I was wondering if you could help us out with a small loan." I set down Georgia's glue stick. "How small?" "Maybe 2,000, just until Dad's bonus comes through next month." "Mom, I don't have $2,000. "Oh, come on, Taylor. You're so good with money. You must have something saved up." "I'm renovating a house. Every penny I have is tied up." There was a pause. "You bought a house? When? Why didn't you tell us?" "Because you didn't ask." "Well, if you can afford a house, surely you can help your parents." "I can't afford a house, Mom. I bought a wreck and I'm fixing it myself. I'm eating ramen noodles and wearing the same 3 shirts to work because every dollar goes into this place." "You don't have to be dramatic." "I'm not being dramatic. I'm being honest. Something you should try." "Taylor Marie, that's enough. We're your parents. We raised you, fed you, put a roof over your head. And then you took my roof away and gave it to Tiffany. That's not... We didn't... This is different." "You're right, it is different. This time, I'm saying no." I hung up and immediately turned off my phone. Georgia looked up from her volcano model. "Was that Grandma?" "Yeah." She sounded upset. "She'll be okay." But she wouldn't be. 2 weeks later, Sandra the realtor called me. "Taylor, I thought you should know. Your parents' house just went into foreclosure proceedings." "What?" "I saw the filing. They've got 90 days before the bank takes possession." I sat down hard on my newly installed kitchen counter. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure. I'm sorry, honey. I know they're family." After I hung up, I walked through my house, running my hands along the walls I'd painted, the floors I'd refinished, the fixtures I'd installed. It was beautiful. It was mine. And it was worth twice what I'd paid for it. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Taylor, this is Tiffany. Mom gave me your number. I'm coming home. Family emergency. Can you pick me up from the airport tomorrow?" I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed back, "Sorry, I'm busy." The response came immediately. "Busy with what? This is important." I deleted the conversation and blocked the number. The prodigal daughter was coming home. But this time, there wouldn't be a fatted calf waiting. 2 years after buying the disaster house, I sold it for a $60,000 profit. Georgia, now 12, helped me pack up our things with the excitement of someone who'd never lived anywhere nice. "Mom, the new house has a pool," she said, folding her clothes into boxes. "An actual pool. A small pool," I corrected. But I was smiling. The new place was a foreclosure in a better neighborhood. 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, and yes, a pool that needed work. But I'd learned a lot about fixing things. Can I invite friends over now? Of course you can. She'd never asked before. At the old apartment, she'd been embarrassed. Now she was practically glowing. Michaela helped us move, marveling at the transformation. Taylor, this place is gorgeous. How much did you pay? $220. It'll be worth $350 when I'm done with it. You're not going to flip this one too, are you? No, this one's ours. But I've got my eye on a duplex across town. My phone had been quiet for months. No more Instagram screenshots from Mom. No more guilt trip calls from Dad. I'd changed my number twice, but somehow they always found the new one. The silence was almost worse than the harassment. Have you heard anything? Michaela asked, reading my mind. Sandra mentioned they're living in a rental. Something small. And Tiffany? Back home, apparently. Living with them. We were interrupted by Georgia calling from upstairs. Mom, come see my room. She'd chosen the biggest bedroom, the one with windows facing the backyard. I'd let her pick out paint colors, a soft lavender that made her look like a princess. It's perfect, baby. Can we get a bigger bed? Maybe a queen size? We can get whatever you want. That evening, after Georgia was asleep, I sat by the pool with my laptop, researching investment properties. The duplex I'd been watching had dropped another $10,000 in price. The seller was motivated. My phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Taylor? It's Dad. I should have hung up. Instead, I found myself asking, how did you get this number? Your boss gave it to me. I told her it was an emergency. Is it? Your mother's in the hospital. My stomach dropped. What happened? Stress. High blood pressure. The doctor says she needs to take it easy, but you know your mother. She's worried about everything. The house, the bills, Tiffany. What about Tiffany? She's struggling. The travel thing didn't work out like she hoped. She's back home, but she's having trouble finding work. And with our situation, your situation? Taylor, we lost the house. I thought you knew. I heard. We're in a 2-bedroom apartment now. It's not much, but it's what we can afford. Tiffany's sleeping on the couch and she's not handling it well. She keeps talking about how this is all temporary, how she just needs to get back on her feet. But, Dad, why are you telling me this? There was a long pause. Because you're doing well. Sandra mentioned you bought a house, a nice one. Sandra talks too much. Taylor, we're family. I know things got complicated with the money situation, but complicated? Poor choice of words. I know you're angry. You have every right to be. But your mother's sick, and Tiffany's depressed, and I don't know what else to do. I looked around my beautiful new kitchen, at the granite countertops I'd installed myself, at the stainless steel appliances I'd bought with cash. What do you want from me, Dad? Just, could you call your mother? She misses you. She misses Georgia. She had 2 years to miss us. Taylor, 2 years of Instagram posts about Tiffany's amazing journey. 2 years of silence when I needed help. 2 years of pretending I didn't exist. That's not fair. Fair? I laughed, and it came out harsher than I intended. You want to talk about fair? Your mother made mistakes. We both did. But she's sick, Taylor. She's in the hospital asking for you. I closed my laptop. Which hospital? St. Mary's, room 314. I'll think about it. Taylor, wait. I hung up. The next morning, I drove to St. Mary's. Not to see Mom. I wasn't ready for that. But I sat in the parking lot for an hour, watching people come and go, thinking about the woman who'd raised me and then discarded me like yesterday's newspaper. My phone buzzed. A text from another unknown number. Taylor, it's Tiffany. Dad said you might visit Mom. I'll be there this afternoon if you want to talk. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I started my car and drove home. Georgia was in the pool when I got back, practicing her backstroke. How's the water? I called. Perfect, she shouted back. Just like everything else. Just like everything else. I smiled and went inside to research that duplex. Some conversations could wait a little longer. 3 years later, I was standing in the grocery store checkout line when I heard a familiar voice behind me. Excuse me, do you take EBT cards here? I turned around and nearly dropped my basket. Tiffany stood there, thinner than I'd ever seen her, her once perfect hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She was holding a basket with generic cereal, ramen noodles, and a single banana. Our eyes met. For a second, neither of us spoke. Taylor? Tiffany. The cashier looked between us impatiently. Ma'am, are you ready to check out? I paid for my groceries, organic vegetables, fresh salmon, a bottle of wine for dinner, and waited by the exit. Tiffany approached slowly, clutching a plastic bag with her meager purchases. You look good, she said. Thanks. I heard you bought a house, a nice one. I did, she shifted uncomfortably. Listen, I know things have been weird between us. Weird? Okay, bad. Things have been bad, but I was hoping we could talk. I glanced at my watch. I have 5 minutes. Dad didn't tell you, did he? About what happened? He said you were struggling, Tiffany laughed bitterly. Struggling. That's one way to put it. Taylor, I lost everything. The travel money, the emergency fund, everything Mom and Dad borrowed. It's all gone. What happened? I met someone in Thailand, a guy who said he was starting a business, needed investors. I thought I was being smart, diversifying. I gave him $40,000. You gave a stranger $40,000? He wasn't a stranger. We were together for 6 months. He had plans, connections. She stopped, seeing my expression. He disappeared, with everything. And Mom and Dad? They mortgaged the house to help me. Then when that money disappeared too, they couldn't make the payments. They lost everything because of me. I studied her face. The golden child, the family princess, standing in a grocery store parking lot, admitting she'd destroyed our parents' lives. Where are you living now? With them. In a studio apartment above Mrs. Chen's garage. It's not great. Mrs. Chen? You remember her. She lived next to our old house. She felt sorry for us, I guess. I did remember her. Sandra's friend, the quiet woman who'd watched our family drama unfold from her front porch for years. Taylor, I know I don't have the right to ask, but you're right, you don't. Please, just listen. Mom's getting worse. The stress, the shame of losing the house, having to depend on charity, it's killing her. And Dad, he won't even look at me anymore. He blames me for everything. He should. I know that. You think I don't know that? I destroyed my family. I took your house money and threw it away on some fantasy life, and now we're all paying for it. A car pulled up next to us. Through the window, I could see Dad in the driver's seat, looking older and more defeated than I'd ever seen him. He spotted me and his face went white. Is that him? He's picking me up. We share a car now. Actually, it's Mrs. Chen's car. She lets us borrow it for grocery runs. Dad got out slowly, like every movement hurt. Taylor. Dad. You look... He gestured vaguely at my clothes, my car, the obvious signs of prosperity. You look successful. I am. That's good. That's really good. I'm proud of you. The words hung in the air like a bad joke. Are you? Of course I am. You always were the smart one, the responsible one. Funny how you figured that out. Tiffany touched my arm. Taylor, we need help. I know we don't deserve it, but Mom... What about Mom? She won't eat. She just sits by the window all day, staring at nothing. She keeps saying she failed as a mother, that she chose wrong, that she destroyed her family for nothing. She did. Taylor, Dad said quietly, please. Please what? Help us. We'll pay you back somehow. With what? You have nothing. You gave everything to her. I pointed at Tiffany. Everything you promised me, everything you saved for your retirement, everything you borrowed against your future. You gave it all to her. I know. Do you? Do you really know? Because 5 years ago, when I begged you to keep your promise, you told me I was being dramatic. You told me family was more important than money, remember? Dad's shoulders sagged. I remember. Good. Because now I want you to remember something else. I want you to remember that you have one daughter who worked her ass off and kept her promises, and another daughter who threw away your life savings on a vacation and a con man. I walked toward my car, then stopped. Oh, and Dad? When you're sitting in that studio apartment tonight, eating ramen noodles and wondering how it all went wrong, I want you to think about the house I bought, the pool where your granddaughter swims every day, the life I built without you. I got in my car and drove away, leaving them standing in the parking lot with their single bag of groceries and their borrowed car. In my rearview mirror, I watched Tiffany put her arm around Dad's shoulders as he started to cry. The doorbell rang at 8 p.m. on a Tuesday. Georgia was upstairs doing homework, and I was reviewing contracts for my latest property acquisition, a small apartment complex that would triple my monthly rental income. Through the peephole, I saw 3 figures huddled on my front porch. Even in the dim light, I recognized them immediately. I opened the door. "Hello, Taylor," Mom said. She looked like she'd aged a decade since I'd last seen her. Her hair was gray, her clothes were wrinkled, and she was clutching a small suitcase like a lifeline. Dad stood behind her, holding 2 more bags. Tiffany was at the back, staring up at my house with undisguised shock. "This is where you live?" Tiffany whispered. I didn't answer. The house was impressive. I'd bought it 2 years ago and spent months renovating it. Colonial style, 6 bedrooms, 3-car garage, professionally landscaped yard. It was the kind of house our parents used to drive through rich neighborhoods to admire. "Can we come in?" Mom asked. "Why?" "Taylor, please, we need to talk." I stepped aside and let them enter. They moved slowly, taking in the marble foyer, the crystal chandelier, the sweeping staircase. Their mouths were literally hanging open. "Jesus Christ," Tiffany breathed. "How much is this place worth?" "More than you'll ever have." Georgia appeared at the top of the stairs. "Mom, who's here?" "Your grandparents and aunt." She came down slowly, studying the 3 strangers who'd been absent from her life for years. At 15, she was tall and confident, nothing like the confused 10-year-old who'd watched her college fund disappear. "Hi, Georgia," Mom said, her voice breaking. "You're so beautiful, so grown up." "Thank you." The politeness was devastating. Georgia didn't run to hug them, didn't smile, didn't show any recognition of the people who used to spoil her with attention. "Georgia, why don't you finish your homework upstairs?" I said. She nodded and disappeared, leaving us in awkward silence. "Nice kid," Dad said finally. "She is. She doesn't remember us, does she?" "She remembers. She just doesn't care." Mom started crying. "Taylor, we made mistakes. Stop." I held up my hand. "Before you say another word, tell me why you're here." They exchanged glances. Finally, Dad spoke. "We got evicted. Mrs. Chen sold her house and the new owners want us out." "Where's all your stuff?" "In storage," Tiffany said. "What we could afford to keep." "And the rest?" "Sold or thrown away." I walked into the living room and sat down in my leather armchair. They followed, perching on the edge of my sofa like they were afraid to get comfortable. "So you need a place to stay?" "Just temporarily," Mom said quickly. "Until we figure something out." "Figure what out?" "Dad, you're 63 years old. Mom, you're 60. Tiffany, you're 33 with no job skills and a gap in your resume the size of Southeast Asia. What exactly are you going to figure out?" "I'm looking for work," Tiffany said defensively. "Doing what?" "I don't know yet. Something will come up." "Something will come up." I repeated the words slowly. That's been your life philosophy, hasn't it? Something will always come up. Someone will always bail you out. That's not fair. Fair. I stood up. You want to talk about fair? Let me tell you what's fair. Fair is working 2 jobs while raising a child alone. Fair is eating ramen noodles for 2 years to save for a house. Fair is keeping your promises to your family. "We know we hurt you," Mom started. "You didn't hurt me. You destroyed me. You took my future and handed it to her." I pointed at Tiffany. "You took my daughter's stability and traded it for Instagram photos. We were trying to help. You were trying to live vicariously through your golden child. And now that she's proven to be fool's gold, you want to come crawling back to the daughter you threw away." The room went silent, except for Mom's quiet sobbing. "But here's the thing," I continued. "I'm not the same person you abandoned 5 years ago. I'm not desperate anymore. I'm not begging for scraps of your attention or approval. I don't need you." "Taylor, please," Dad said. "We have nowhere else to go."
That's not my problem. We're family. No. Family doesn't abandon each other. Family keeps their promises. Family shows up when it matters. I walked to the front door and opened it. "But I'll make you a deal. You can stay. I've got a guest house out back. 3 bedrooms, fully furnished. You can live there rent-free." Hope flickered in their eyes. "What's the catch?" Tiffany asked.
I smiled. "You have to earn it. All 3 of you. Together. On camera. You're going to tell the world exactly what you did to me and exactly why you're here now." "What do you mean?" "I mean you're going to make a video, a public apology. You're going to admit that you stole my house money, that you chose Tiffany over me, that you destroyed your own lives through greed and favoritism. And you're going to post it on social media for everyone to see. Taylor, we can't." "Then you can leave." I held the door open wider. "Your choice." They stayed. The next morning I found them huddled in my kitchen, whispering among themselves. They went silent when I walked in. "Have you decided?" I asked, pouring myself coffee from my expensive espresso machine. "Taylor, surely we can work something else out," Mom said. "Some other way to make amends." "There is no other way." "What you're asking is humiliating," Tiffany said. "Good. You humiliated me. Now it's your turn." "But social media? Everyone will see it. Our friends, our old neighbors, people from church. Everyone saw Tiffany's Instagram posts about her amazing adventure. Everyone heard you bragging about your worldly daughter. Now they get to see the rest of the story." Dad cleared his throat. "What exactly would we have to say?" I pulled out my phone and opened the Notes app. "I've written it down, word for word. You don't get to improvise or soften it." I handed him the phone. He read silently, his face growing paler with each line. Then he passed it to Mom, who gasped audibly. Tiffany read it last. "Jesus, Taylor, this is brutal." "Is any of it untrue?" "No, but..." "Then what's the problem?" "The problem is you want us to destroy our reputations," Mom said. "Your reputations were destroyed the moment you lost your house and started living in someone's garage. This just makes it official." Michaela arrived an hour later with her video equipment. She'd offered to film it professionally, free of charge. "This is really happening?" she asked, setting up her camera in my living room. "It's really happening." "And they agreed?" "They don't have a choice." My family sat on the couch like they were facing a firing squad. Mom kept dabbing at her eyes with tissues. Dad stared at his hands. Tiffany looked like she might bolt at any second. "Okay," Michaela said. "Camera's rolling. Taylor, do you want to introduce them?" "No, they can introduce themselves." I sat in my armchair, just out of frame, holding the script. "Go ahead, Dad. Start with your name and relationship to me." Dad looked directly into the camera. "My name is Renee. I'm Taylor's father. And 5 years ago, I made the worst decision of my life." His voice cracked. Mom reached for his hand. "Continue." "My daughter Taylor had been saving for 2 years to buy a house. She worked multiple jobs, sacrificed everything, saved $28,000 for a down payment. My wife and I promised to match that amount." He paused, struggling. "Keep going." "Instead, we gave all the money, $50,000, to our other daughter Tiffany, so she could travel around Asia." "Why?" "Because we thought Tiffany was special. We thought she deserved more than an ordinary life. We thought Taylor would be fine because she was always responsible, always figured things out." Mom spoke up, her voice barely a whisper. We were wrong. Louder, Mom. We were wrong, she said, tears streaming down her face. We were so wrong. We abandoned our daughter when she needed us most. We broke our promise to her and to our granddaughter. Tiffany, your turn. Tiffany looked like she wanted to disappear. I'm Tiffany. I'm Taylor's younger sister. And I took money that should have gone to my niece's future. I spent it on a selfish fantasy. I convinced my parents to mortgage their house to give me more money, and then I lost it all to a con man. How much did you lose? Everything. $90,000. My parents lost their house because of me. Where are you living now? We were living in a garage. Now we're begging my sister, the sister we betrayed, to let us stay in her guest house. And why should she help you? The question hung in the air. None of them had an answer. Because, Dad finally said, she's a better person than we are. She's everything we should have recognized 5 years ago. She's successful, she's strong, she's built a beautiful life for herself and her daughter despite us, not because of us. We don't deserve her forgiveness, Mom added, but we're asking for it anyway. We're sorry, Tiffany whispered. We're so sorry. Cut, Michaela said. The room fell silent except for Mom's crying. That was good, I said. Now we post it. Taylor, wait, Dad said. Maybe we could just show it to you. Prove we're willing to humiliate ourselves without actually… No. The deal was social media. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Everywhere. Please. You had 5 years to apologize privately. That time is over. I took Michaela's camera and uploaded the video to my laptop. Within minutes, it was live on every platform I could think of. There, I said. It's done. My phone started buzzing immediately. Notifications, comments, shares. The video was already spreading. How long before people see it? Tiffany asked. People are seeing it now. Mom buried her face in her hands. What have we done? You've told the truth, I said. Finally. By evening, the video had been viewed 50,000 times. The comments were brutal, but they were also validating. Strangers from around the world were calling my parents out, praising me for standing up for myself, sharing their own stories of family betrayal. I'd won. Completely and utterly. So why did I feel so empty? The video hit 1 million views in 3 days. I watched the numbers climb from my home office while managing my rental properties. Comments poured in from strangers around the world, some supportive, some critical, all of them dissecting my family's dysfunction for entertainment. Holy shit, your parents are awful. This is what narcissistic parenting looks like. Team Taylor all the way. This family is toxic AF. But mixed in with the support were other voices. This is cruel. They're clearly desperate. Making your own parents humiliate themselves publicly? That's psychopath behavior. 2 wrongs don't make a right. Georgia knocked on my office door. Mom, there are reporters outside. I looked out the window. 3 news vans were parked on my street. Cameras pointed at my house. Stay inside, I told her. Don't answer the door. My phone rang. Michaela. Taylor, you need to see the news. Channel 7 is running a segment about your video. I turned on the TV. There was my family's confession playing on the evening news, followed by a panel discussion about viral revenge and family dysfunction in the social media age. The question we're asking tonight, the anchor said, is whether this daughter's public humiliation of her parents crosses a line, or if this is simply justice served. They interviewed random people on the street. The responses were split down the middle. She had every right to expose them. This is taking it too far. Family business should stay private. Good for her for standing up for herself. I turned off the TV and walked to the guest house. I found them sitting around the small kitchen table, not talking, not eating, just existing in their shared misery. They looked up when I entered. The video's on the news, I said. Dad nodded. We saw. My old boss called, Mom said quietly. She saw it. She wanted to know if I was okay. What did you tell her? That I deserved it. Tiffany was staring at her phone. I've gotten over 200 messages, people I haven't talked to in years, asking if it's real. Is that what you wanted? Dad asked me. To destroy what was left of our dignity? I wanted you to understand what you did to me. We understand, Mom said. We've understood for years. We just didn't know how to fix it. You could have apologized. Privately. Years ago. Would you have forgiven us? I considered the question. I don't know, but you never tried. We were ashamed, Dad said. We knew we'd ruined everything, and we didn't know how to face you. So you ignored me instead. Yes. The silence stretched between us. The video has 1 million views, I said. We know, Tiffany said. My phone hasn't stopped buzzing. Are you happy now? Mom asked. Is this what you wanted? I looked around the guest house, at the expensive furniture I'd bought them, the fully stocked kitchen, the comfortable beds they'd be sleeping in tonight. Then I looked at their faces, hollow and defeated. I thought it was. And now? Now I don't know. Georgia appeared in the doorway. Mom, there's a lady at the front door. She says she's from the Today Show. Tell her we're not interested. She says they want to interview our whole family. She mentioned money. I walked back to the main house with Georgia, leaving my parents and sister in their exile. The reporter was persistent, professional, offering us a substantial fee for an exclusive interview. We want to tell the whole story, she said. Your side, their side, what really happened? No, I said. The offer is $50,000 for 1 hour. I closed the door in her face. That evening, I sat by my pool, watching Georgia swim laps. She was strong, confident, unbroken by the chaos that had defined my own childhood. I'd given her stability, security, a future. I'd kept my promises to her even when no one kept theirs to me. Mom, she called from the water. Are you okay? I'm fine, baby. You don't look fine. She climbed out and sat beside me, dripping chlorine water on my expensive patio furniture. Do you regret it? She asked. The video? Do you think I should? I think you got what you wanted, but I don't think it made you happy. She was right. I'd won completely. Public vindication, financial success, the satisfaction of watching my family face consequences for their choices. But sitting there in my beautiful house, surrounded by everything I'd built, I felt hollow. They're still my family, I said. I know. Even after everything they did. I know. I looked toward the guest house where 3 broken people were trying to rebuild their lives in the shadow of their public shame. What do you think I should do? Georgia considered this seriously. I think you should decide if you want to be right or if you want to be happy. Can I be both? I don't know, Mom. Can you? The pool filter hummed quietly. Somewhere in the distance, I could hear my mother crying. I'd gotten my revenge. The question now was what to do with it.
The sound of my family laughing through my laptop speakers made me want to throw the damn thing across the room. There they were, Talia, Garrett, and Mom, all crowded around someone's phone screen, giggling about wine tastings in Tuscany while I sat on the bathroom floor, scrubbing dried urine off the tiles with a toothbrush. My name is Joanna, and I'm 32 years old. 3 years ago, I thought I was just temporarily moving back home to help with Dad's recovery. That was before the dementia diagnosis, before the heart failure, before my siblings decided I was the family's designated martyr. Joanna, are you there? Mom's voice crackled through the laptop speakers. We can barely see you. I angled the camera away from the mess behind me and forced a smile. I'm here, just cleaning up a little spill. Oh, good. Well, we wanted to show you the villa we're staying at tomorrow night. Garrett found this amazing place with an infinity pool overlooking the Mediterranean. Garrett's face filled the screen, all tanned and relaxed. Joe, you should see this place. The bathroom alone is bigger than your entire. He caught himself. I mean, it's really nice. Sounds incredible.
I said, my voice flat as roadkill. Talia pushed into frame, her designer sunglasses perched on her head. We're thinking of extending the trip another week. The exchange rate is just too good to pass up. Another week. Of course they were. That's great for you guys, I managed. How's Dad doing? Talia asked, like she was inquiring about the weather. I glanced toward the bedroom where Dad was sleeping, finally peaceful after an hour of trying to convince him that the lamp wasn't a person trying to hurt him. He's having a rough day. The new medication isn't. Well, that's what the doctors are for, Mom interrupted. Speaking of which, did you remember to schedule his cardiology follow-up? Yes, Mom. I scheduled it. Just like I scheduled his neurologist appointment, his physical therapy, his blood work, and his. Good, good. Oh, and Joanna, we're running a bit low on the household account. Can you make the groceries stretch until we get back? Maybe stick to the basics. I stared at the screen. They were calling me from a restaurant that probably charged €50 for pasta while asking me to ration Dad's food. Sure, Mom, I'll make it work. You're such a lifesaver, sweetie. What would we do without you? The question hung in the air like smoke. What would they do without me? They'd have to come home, they'd have to take shifts, they'd have to sacrifice their precious lives for 5 minutes to deal with reality. Anyway, Garrett said, we should go. We have dinner reservations at this place that's supposedly impossible to get into, but Samara knows someone who knows someone. Of course, Samara knew someone. Garrett's girlfriend always knew someone. She also always had opinions about our family that she wasn't shy about sharing. Before you go, I said, I wanted to ask about getting some help, maybe a part-time aide, just for a few hours a day so I can. Joanna, we've talked about this, Mom said, her voice taking on that sharp edge I knew too well. Professional care is expensive, and frankly, Dad responds better to family. You have such a natural touch with him. Natural touch? Right. Like there was something inherently female about cleaning up bodily fluids and being screamed at by a man who sometimes forgot I existed. Besides, Talia added, your work is so flexible. It's not like you have to be in an office every day. Flexible? My remote copywriting job that I squeezed in between medication schedules and doctor appointments, working until 2 in the morning because it was the only quiet time in the house. So flexible. We really do have to run, Garrett said. Love you, Joe. Take care of yourself. The screen went black, and suddenly the house felt impossibly quiet except for the sound of Dad's labored breathing from the next room. I looked down at the toothbrush in my hand, still stained with things I didn't want to think about, and something inside me cracked. Not broke, cracked. Like ice on a lake that looks solid but won't hold your weight much longer. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. Almost forgot, we're thinking of doing a quick trip to Barcelona after Italy. You don't mind holding down the fort a little longer, do you? You're so good at it. I set the phone down very carefully and went back to scrubbing the floor. The package arrived on a Tuesday, wrapped in expensive paper with a bow that probably cost more than my weekly grocery budget. Inside was a silk scarf from Milan and a note in Talia's perfect handwriting. Saw this and thought of you. Hope it brightens your day. XOXO. I held up the scarf, beautiful, impractical, and completely useless for someone who spent her days covered in various bodily fluids. The price tag was still attached, €200. Dad, look what Talia sent, I said, showing him the scarf. He stared at it blankly. Who's Talia? My heart clenched. Your daughter, my sister. I don't have a daughter named Talia. His voice was matter of fact, like he was correcting me about the weather. I folded the scarf carefully and put it back in the box. Some days he remembered everything. Other days, entire people disappeared from his mind like they'd never existed. My phone rang. Garrett. Hey, Joe, did you get Talia's package? Just opened it. Isn't she sweet? She felt bad about being away so long. He paused. Listen, I have some news. I got the promotion. That's great, Garrett. Congratulations. Thanks. It means more travel, but the money's incredible. Samara and I are thinking about getting a place together. Maybe something with a view. While I lived in a house that smelled like disinfectant and despair. That sounds wonderful. The thing is, with the new position, I'm going to be even busier. But I promise I'll visit soon. Maybe next month when things settle down. Next month. He'd been saying next month for 6 months. Sure, Garrett. Whenever you can. You're the best, Joe. I don't know how you do it. I really don't. You're like superhuman or something. Superhuman. Not human enough to have needs, apparently. After he hung up, I sat staring at my laptop screen. My latest client wanted revisions on a project I'd submitted at 3 in the morning, working by the light of my phone so I wouldn't wake Dad. The feedback was brutal, lacks focus and attention to detail. Please revise and resubmit. I'd been doing this job for 8 years, or I used to be good at it. Now I felt like I was drowning, trying to hold on to the last piece of my professional identity while everything else slipped away. Dad started calling from his room. Nurse, nurse, I need the nurse. I'm coming, Dad. I found him trying to get out of bed, his legs tangled in the sheets. He was stronger than he looked, and when the confusion hit, he could be surprisingly forceful. Where's my wife? I want my wife. Dad, it's me. It's Joanna. Mom's traveling right now, remember? I don't know any Joanna. His eyes were wild, frightened. Who are you? What are you doing in my house? This was new. He'd forgotten Talia and Garrett before, but never me. I was always there. I was the constant. Dad, please, let me help you back into bed. Get away from me! Help! Someone help me! He swung his arm, catching me across the cheek. Not hard enough to really hurt, but hard enough to sting. Hard enough to make me step back. Dad, please! I want my wife! Where's Margaret? I pulled out my phone and called Mom. It went straight to voicemail. I tried again. Voicemail. I texted, Dad's having an episode. He doesn't recognize me. Can you call him? 3 hours later, she texted back. Sorry, was at a cooking class. Try putting on some music. He likes the oldies. You're doing great. A cooking class. While I was getting hit by a man who thought I was a stranger breaking into his house. That night, after Dad finally calmed down and fell asleep, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop trying to salvage the client project. My cheek was still tender where he'd hit me. I touched it gently and felt something inside me shift. I opened a new browser tab and typed elder care facilities near me. The search results filled the screen: professional facilities with trained staff, 24-hour care, activities, social interaction, everything Dad needed and I couldn't provide. I clicked on one. The photos showed clean, bright rooms and smiling elderly residents. The staff looked competent and kind. There was a garden, a library, people who knew what they were doing. Then I saw the price: $8,000 a month. I closed the laptop and put my head in my hands. Even if I could convince Mom to consider it, we couldn't afford it. Dad's pension and Social Security barely covered the mortgage and his medications. My phone buzzed with an email from Mom. Forwarding you our Barcelona itinerary. We decided to extend another week. The weather is just too perfect to leave. You understand, right? Love you. I stared at the email for a long time. Then I forwarded it to myself and saved it in a folder I labeled evidence. I wasn't sure why I did that. I just knew I needed to keep track of things. All the things. The Instagram notification popped up while I was changing Dad's sheets for the 3rd time that day. Talia had posted a story, champagne flutes clinking against the backdrop of the Eiffel Tower, tagged with living our best life. Paris vibes, blah, sister trip, sister trip. Mom wasn't even pretending this was anything other than a vacation anymore. I screenshot it and added it to my growing folder. Joanna? Dad's voice was small, confused. I had an accident. I know, Dad. It's okay. Let's get you cleaned up. As I helped him to the bathroom, my phone rang. The caller ID showed a number I didn't recognize. Hello? Hi, is this Joanna? This is Elisa from Comfort Care Nursing. I'm calling about the consultation you requested online. I'd filled out the form at 2 in the morning 3 days ago, half delirious from exhaustion. I'd almost forgotten. Yes, that's me. I have an opening this afternoon if you'd like me to come assess your father's needs. No charge for the initial consultation. That would be yes, please. Elisa arrived at 3 o'clock sharp. She was maybe 45, with kind eyes and the sort of competent presence that made you feel like everything might actually be okay. She wore scrubs covered in tiny cartoon cats. So tell me about your father's condition, she said, settling into the kitchen chair across from me. I gave her the rundown: the dementia, the heart failure, the incontinence, the episodes where he didn't recognize me. And you're managing all this alone? My family travels a lot for work. She nodded like she'd heard this story before. How long have you been his primary caregiver? 3 years? And before that? I was a copywriter. I still am, technically. I work remotely. When was the last time you had a full night's sleep? I had to think about it. I honestly can't remember. Elisa spent an hour with Dad, checking his vitals, assessing his mobility, asking him gentle questions. He was having a good day and actually seemed to enjoy the attention. He's a sweet man, she said when we returned to the kitchen, but his care needs are significant. This is really a job for professionals. I know, but we can't afford. Actually, that's not necessarily true. Has anyone explained your father's insurance benefits to you? I stared at her. What benefits? She pulled out a tablet and showed me a website. Medicare covers a lot more than people realize. Home health aides, skilled nursing visits, even some residential care under certain circumstances. Your father's conditions qualify him for quite a bit of assistance. But my family said, families often don't know what's available. Or sometimes. She paused delicately. Sometimes it's easier to rely on free family labor than navigate the system. The words hit me like a slap. Free family labor. Would you like me to help you apply for services? I'd need to discuss it with my mother. Of course. But Joanna, can I ask you something? When was the last time you left this house for more than an hour? I couldn't answer that either. You can't pour from an empty cup. Your father needs care, yes, but you need a life too. After she left, I sat in the living room, watching Dad sleep in his recliner. His breathing was labored but steady, peaceful. He looked like the father I remembered from childhood, before the disease stole pieces of him away. My phone buzzed. Another Instagram story from Garrett. He and Samara were at some rooftop bar in Barcelona, cocktails in hand, the city sprawling below them. The caption read, "Sometimes you just need to live a little." No regrets. Jekir Barcelona Troch couple goals. I opened my laptop and Googled power of attorney elderly parent. The search results were overwhelming, but one phrase kept appearing. The person who provides primary care often has the strongest legal standing. Primary care, that was me. I clicked on a law firm's website and filled out their contact form. Under Nature of Inquiry, I wrote, I am the sole caregiver for my elderly father. I need to understand my legal options. Then I closed the laptop and went to check on Dad. He was awake, staring at the ceiling. Dad? How are you feeling? He turned to look at me, and for a moment his eyes were clear, really clear. Joanna? Sweetheart, you look tired. I'm okay, Dad. No, you're not. He reached for my hand. I'm sorry, honey. I know this isn't what you wanted for your life. My throat tightened. Dad, your mother and the others, they don't understand. But I see you. I see what you're doing for me. I love you, Dad. I love you too, but promise me something. What? Don't let them make you disappear. You're too important for that. He squeezed my hand, then closed his eyes and drifted back to sleep. I sat there holding his hand until my phone rang. The law firm, returning my call. Ms. Erickson, this is Reagan from Hartwell and Associates. I got your inquiry about power of attorney. Can you talk now? I looked at Dad, sleeping peacefully, then at my phone, showing 17 new notifications from my family's European adventure. Yes, I said. I can talk now. Reagan's office smelled like leather and confidence. She was younger than I'd expected, maybe late 30s, with the kind of sharp suit that said she didn't mess around. So you've been your father's primary caregiver for 3 years with no assistance from other family members? That's right. She made notes on a yellow legal pad. And they're currently where? Europe. They extended their trip again. They'll be gone almost a month total. Without arranging alternative care? They said I had it handled. Reagan looked up from her notes. Joanna, I'm going to be direct with you. What you're describing is elder abandonment. Your siblings and mother have a legal obligation to contribute to your father's care, either financially or physically. They can't just dump everything on you. But they keep saying, I don't care what they keep saying. The law is clear. She leaned forward. You have grounds for emergency power of attorney based on your role as primary caregiver and the absence of other family members. especially given your father's deteriorating condition. My hands were shaking. What would that mean exactly? It means you'd have legal authority to make decisions about his care, his finances, his living situation, everything. Even without their consent? The court cares about what's best for your father, not what's convenient for your family. She walked me through the paperwork, medical records, financial statements, documentation of my caregiving role. I had it all. 3 years of meticulous records because I'd learned early that mom would question every expense. This is actually a very strong case, Reagan said, flipping through the documents. You have clear evidence of consistent, sole caregiving responsibility. Your father's medical team can testify to your involvement, and the fact that your family left the country without arranging alternative care. She shook her head. That's not going to look good for them. How long does this process usually take? Emergency petitions can be fast tracked. Given the circumstances, we could have a hearing within the week. A week, my family would still be sipping wine in European cafes while I was taking legal control of Dad's life. What if they fight it when they get back? They can try, but they'd have to prove they're better suited to make decisions for your father's care, given their track record. Reagan smiled grimly. Good luck with that. I signed the papers with a hand that barely felt like my own. Walking to my car, my phone buzzed with a text from Garrett. Hey Joe, just checking in. How's everything? We're having the most amazing time. Samara says hi. I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back, Everything's fine. Enjoy your trip. But I screenshot the text and added it to my evidence folder. That evening, while Dad napped, I called Elisa. Joanna, how are you holding up? I wanted to ask about those Medicare benefits you mentioned. If I had power of attorney, could I arrange for professional care? Absolutely. In fact, it would be much easier. You could authorize services, sign contracts, make medical decisions. Why do you ask? I'm exploring my options. Good for you. Your father would qualify for quite a bit of assistance, home health aides, skilled nursing visits, even adult day programs if he's stable enough. After we hung up, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop, researching care facilities again. But this time, I wasn't looking at the prices with despair. I was looking at them with calculation. Dad's pension was $3,200 a month. Social Security was another $800. His savings account had about $85,000. If I managed it carefully, my phone rang. Mom? Joanna, darling, how are things? Fine, Mom. How's Barcelona? Oh, it's magical. We're thinking of staying another few days. There's this little coastal town Talia wants to visit. You don't mind, do you? Of course not. You're such a treasure. Oh, and I meant to mention, we're running a bit low on the household account again. Can you cover groceries this week? We'll settle up when we get back. Sure, Mom. Perfect. Give Dad our love. She hung up before I could respond. I opened my laptop and checked my bank account. After covering Dad's medications and groceries, I had $247 left until my next freelance payment. Meanwhile, Mom had just posted a photo of a $200 dinner on Instagram. My phone buzzed with another text, this one from Garrett. Bidao, meant to tell you, Samara thinks you should get out more. Maybe try online dating or something? You're wasting your best years in that house. Just some friendly advice. I read the message 3 times, feeling something cold and sharp settle in my chest. Then I opened a new text and typed, Thanks for the advice. I'm actually making some big changes soon. You'll see. I deleted it without sending. Instead, I called Reagan. It's Joanna. I want to file the petition. Tomorrow, if possible. Are you sure? Once we start this process? I'm sure. All right, then. I'll have the paperwork ready first thing in the morning. Joanna? Yes. You're doing the right thing. I hung up and looked at Dad, sleeping peacefully in his chair. Don't worry, Dad, I whispered. Someone's finally going to take care of both of us. The judge was a woman in her 60s with silver hair and no-nonsense glasses. She reviewed my petition with the kind of thoroughness that made my palms sweat. Ms. Erickson, you've been your father's sole caregiver for 3 years? Yes, Your Honor. And where are your siblings currently? Europe. They've been traveling for almost a month. She flipped through the medical records. I see here that your father has had several emergency room visits in the past year. Who accompanied him to these appointments? I did, all of them. And your family was aware of these incidents? Yes, Your Honor. I kept them informed. The judge made a note. Yet they chose to extend their vacation? Reagan leaned forward. Your Honor, the petitioner has documentation showing that the family was notified of Mr. Erickson's declining condition but chose to remain abroad. The judge reviewed the screenshots of my family's social media posts alongside the medical timeline. Her expression grew stern. This petition is granted. Ms. Erickson, you now have full power of attorney for your father's medical and financial decisions effective immediately. My hands shook as I signed the final documents. It was done. Congratulations, Reagan said as we left the courthouse. You're now legally in control of your father's care. What happens when my family finds out? They can contest it, but they'd need to prove you're unfit or acting against your father's interests, given the evidence. She shrugged. I wouldn't worry about it. I drove home in a daze. Dad was napping when I arrived, looking peaceful in his recliner. I sat beside him and took his hand. Dad, I have some news. His eyes opened slowly. Joanna? I'm going to get you some help, professional help, people who know how to take care of you properly. He squeezed my hand. What about you? I'm going to be okay, better than okay. That afternoon, I called Elisa. Joanna, how did the legal stuff go? I got power of attorney. That's wonderful. So what's your next step? I want to hire your agency, full-time care for my father. That's a big decision. Are you sure? I'm sure. How quickly can you start? I could have someone there tomorrow, but Joanna, full-time care is expensive. Are you prepared for... I have access to my father's accounts now. Money isn't an issue. There was a pause. Okay then. I'll send over the contracts today. The paperwork arrived by email within an hour. I read every line carefully, then signed with my new legal authority. The cost was $8,500 a month, exactly what I'd calculated Dad's income could cover. I called the bank next. I need to set up automatic payments from Clayton Erickson's account. I have power of attorney. Of course, Ms. Erickson. What kind of payments are we setting up? Professional nursing care, monthly payments of $8,500. That's quite a large recurring payment. Are you sure? I'm sure. After I hung up, I sat staring at Dad's financial statements spread across the kitchen table. His savings would last about 10 months at this rate, maybe less if his condition worsened and he needed more intensive care. My phone buzzed with a text from Talia. Having the most amazing time in this little coastal village. The seafood is incredible. Missing you. I screenshot it and added it to my folder. Then I opened a new browser tab and searched for flights. One-way ticket to Portland, Oregon. I'd always wanted to see the Pacific Northwest. The flight was $340, leaving in 3 days. I booked it. That evening, Elisa arrived with another nurse to meet Dad and go over his care plan. This is Marcus, she said, introducing a kind-looking man in his 40s. He'll be taking the day shifts. I'll cover nights when needed. Dad was confused at first, but Marcus had a gentle way with him that put him at ease. Your daughter's arranged for us to take really good care of you, Mr. Clayton, Marcus said. You don't need to worry about anything. Joanna's a good girl, Dad said. She's been taking care of me. She sure has. Now it's our turn to take care of both of you. After they left, I sat down to write a letter. I kept it simple. Mom, Talia, and Garrett. By the time you read this, I'll be gone. I've arranged professional care for Dad through a licensed agency. The cost is $8,500 per month, paid automatically from Dad's accounts. I have legal power of attorney, so this arrangement is non-negotiable. For 3 years, I've sacrificed my career, my health, and my life to care for Dad, while you traveled, worked, and lived your lives. I'm not angry. I'm done. The nurses are excellent. Dad will be well cared for, better cared for than I could manage alone. Don't try to contact me. I need time to figure out who I am when I'm not your solution to every problem. The spare key is with Nurse Elisa. All of Dad's medical information is in the blue folder on the kitchen counter. Take care of yourselves, you're good at that. Joanna. I sealed the letter and left it on the kitchen table. The next morning, Marcus arrived at 8 sharp. Ready for your first day off in 3 years? He asked with a smile. More than ready. I grabbed my suitcase. I'd packed light, just the essentials, and headed for the door. Joanna? Dad called from his chair. I went to him and kissed his forehead. I love you, Dad. These people are going to take good care of you. Where are you going? To live my life. He smiled. Good. It's about time. As I drove to the airport, my phone started buzzing with notifications. Instagram alerts, probably more vacation photos from my family. I turned the phone off and rolled down the windows, letting the morning air fill the car. For the first time in 3 years, I was driving somewhere for myself. I was sitting in a coffee shop in Portland, watching the rain streak down the windows when my phone started vibrating like an angry wasp. I turned it back on that morning, 3 days after landing, figuring enough time had passed. 17 missed calls from Mom, 23 from Talia, 12 from Garrett. The voicemails were a progression of panic. Mom's first message was confused. Joanna, honey, we're back and there's a strange man in the house saying he's Dad's nurse. Call me back immediately. By the fifth message, confusion had turned to fury. Joanna Marie Erickson, you call me back right now. What have you done? How dare you make these decisions without consulting us? Talia's messages started demanding. Joe, this is insane. You can't just hire nurses without discussing it with the family. Call me back so we can fix this mess. But by her last message, I could hear the fear creeping in. Joanna, please, we need to talk about this. The bills. Oh God, the bills. Please call me back. Garrett's voicemails were the most interesting. His first few were typical Garrett, dismissive and condescending. Joe, what's this tantrum about? Samara thinks you're having some kind of breakdown. Just come home and we'll sort this out. But his most recent message was different. Joanna, I talked to a lawyer. He says what you did might be legal, but it's not right. You're destroying this family, Dad's inheritance. There won't be anything left at this rate. Please, just come home. We can work something out. I deleted all the voicemails and ordered another coffee. My phone rang. Mom again. Hello, Mom. Joanna? Thank God. Where are you? We need you to come home right now and fix this disaster you've created. I'm not coming home. Don't be ridiculous. You can't just abandon your father. I didn't abandon him. I got him professional care, 24-hour nursing supervision, medication management, physical therapy, everything he needs. We can't afford this, Joanna. Do you have any idea what this is costing? I know exactly what it costs. Dad's pension and Social Security cover it. What about his savings? What about... Her voice dropped. What about our inheritance? There it was. The real issue. Dad's not dead yet, Mom. Maybe focus on his care instead of his money. You selfish little... She caught herself. Joanna, please, come home. We'll discuss getting you some help, maybe a part-time aide, but this is too much. A part-time aide? For 3 hours a week while you go to book club? That's not fair. You're right, it's not fair. It wasn't fair for 3 years. I hung up. Within minutes, my phone was buzzing with texts. Talia, Joe, please be reasonable. We can't sustain these costs. Dad will be broke in less than a year. Garrett, this is financial abuse, Joanna. I'm consulting with lawyers. Mom, your father is asking for you. He's confused and scared. How can you do this to him? That last one stung, but I didn't respond. Instead, I called Elisa. Joanna, how's your vacation going? It's good. How's Dad? He's doing really well, actually. Marcus has him on a good routine, and he seems less agitated than before. We had the doctor out yesterday for his regular checkup. His blood pressure is better, and he's eating more regularly. And my family? Elisa's voice got careful. They've been vocal. Your mother tried to fire us yesterday. What did you tell her? That we work for you now and our contract is with you. She wasn't happy. I bet she wasn't. Joanna, they're saying some pretty harsh things about you. Are you okay? I'm better than I've been in years. After we hung up, I walked through downtown Portland, letting the drizzle soak through my jacket. I felt lighter than I had in forever, like I'd been carrying a weight I didn't even realize was there. My phone rang again. This time, it was a number I didn't recognize. Is this Joanna Erickson? Yes. This is David Hartwell from Hartwell and Associates. I represent your siblings regarding your father's care situation. Reagan told me you might call. Ms. Erickson, my clients are prepared to offer a compromise. If you return home and resume your caregiving duties, they're willing to contribute $500 monthly toward your father's expenses. I almost laughed. $500 for full-time care? It's a generous offer considering. Considering what? That I gave up 3 years of my life for free? Ms. Erickson, your actions are putting your father's financial security at risk. At the current rate of expenditure, at the current rate, he's getting proper medical care for the first time in years. But the inheritance, there it is again. The inheritance. I stopped walking. Tell my family something for me. Yes? Dad's not a lottery ticket. He's a human being who deserves professional care. If that bankrupts his estate, so be it. Ms. Erickson, I hung up and turned off my phone. That evening, I sat in my hotel room and wrote an email to my family. I got your messages. All of them. The answer is no. I'm not coming back to be your unpaid servant. Dad is getting excellent care, and I'm finally living my life. If you're worried about the money, maybe you should have thought about that before you spent a month drinking wine in Europe while I cleaned up bodily fluids. Don't contact me again. Joanna. I hit send and felt something settle in my chest. Peace, maybe, or just the absence of guilt. Either way, it felt like freedom. 2 weeks into my Portland adventure, I was sitting in Powell's books with a stack of novels I'd forgotten I loved when my phone rang. Elisa's name on the screen made my stomach clench. Joanna, I'm sorry to bother you, but I thought you should know. Your father had a fall yesterday. My coffee cup froze halfway to my lips. Is he okay? He's fine. Marcus caught him before he hit the ground. But your family, they're using it as ammunition. Your mother called the agency demanding we be fired for negligence. What did you tell her? The truth. That falls happen with dementia patients, and that's exactly why he needs professional supervision. If you'd been here alone when it happened, she didn't need to finish. I'd been there for dozens of close calls, heart-stopping moments when I'd barely prevented disaster. There's something else, Elisa continued. Your mother hired a private investigator to look into your finances. She's claiming you're stealing from your father. That's ridiculous. I know, but she's desperate. The bills are adding up, and I think reality is setting in. After we hung up, I walked through the Pearl District, trying to process what I was feeling. Guilt, relief, vindication, maybe all three. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Samara, Garrett's girlfriend. We need to talk. I stared at the message. Samara had never contacted me directly before. I called the number. Joanna, thank God you called back. What do you want, Samara? Look, I'm going to be straight with you because someone needs to be. Your family is losing their minds. Garrett hasn't slept in days. He's talking about taking out loans to cover your dad's care. That's not my problem, isn't it? I mean, I get why you're pissed. I really do. But this scorched earth thing you're doing, it's destroying everyone. Everyone was fine destroying me for 3 years. You're right, they were. And I told Garrett that, by the way. I told him you were getting screwed and he needed to step up. But this, she paused, this is going to bankrupt your dad, and you know it. Professional care costs money. If they can't handle that, Joanna, your mom mortgaged her condo to cover last month's nursing bill. That stopped me cold. What? She didn't tell you. She took out a second mortgage. Talia's been selling jewelry. Garrett's working double shifts and picking up freelance work on weekends. I sat down on a bench, feeling dizzy. They chose to extend their vacation. They chose to leave me alone with Dad for a month. And now they're choosing to bankrupt themselves rather than let your dad go without care. Doesn't that tell you something? It tells me they're finally facing consequences. Jesus, Joanna, I thought you were better than this. Better than what? Better than them. But you're just as selfish, aren't you? You're so focused on your revenge that you don't care who gets hurt. The line went quiet. I could hear traffic in the background on her end. Your dad asked about you yesterday, she said finally. Garrett was visiting, and your dad kept asking where his good daughter was. He said you were the only one who really took care of him. My throat tightened. Samara. He's proud of you, you know. Even confused as he is, he knows you sacrificed everything for him, but he also knows you're gone and he doesn't understand why. I had to leave. I know. And honestly, good for you. You deserved better than what they gave you, but this isn't about what you deserved anymore. This is about what kind of person you want to be." She hung up before I could respond. I sat on that bench for an hour, watching people walk by with their normal lives and normal problems. A couple arguing about dinner plans, a mother chasing a toddler, college students complaining about midterms. Simple problems, fixable problems. My phone rang again. "Mom, Joanna, please, I'm begging you." Her voice was different, smaller, broken. "I know I failed you. I know we all did. But please don't punish your father for our mistakes. I'm not punishing him. He's getting excellent care. Care we can't afford. Joanna, I've spent my entire retirement fund. Talia's marriage is falling apart because of the financial stress. Garrett's having panic attacks. Mom, I'll do anything. I'll sell the house. I'll move in and take care of him myself. Just please, please come home and help us figure this out." I closed my eyes. "You'll take care of him yourself?" "Yes. Full time. Whatever it takes." "You couldn't handle it, Mom. None of you could. That's why I was stuck doing it alone." "Then teach us. Show us how. But please, don't let this destroy our family completely." "Our family was already destroyed. I just stopped pretending it wasn't." "Joanna." I hung up and turned off my phone. That night, I lay in my hotel bed staring at the ceiling, Samara's words echoing in my head. "What kind of person do you want to be?" I'd gotten my revenge. My family was finally understanding what I'd been carrying alone. They were scrambling, panicking, sacrificing their own comfort for Dad's care. It should have felt satisfying. Instead, it felt hollow. I called Elisa from the Portland airport. "Joanna, are you okay? How's Dad doing today? He's having a good morning. Marcus got him to eat a full breakfast, and he's been asking about you again." "I'm coming home." "Really? When?" "My flight lands in 4 hours." There was a pause. "Your family doesn't know, do they?" "No." "And Elisa, I need you to set up a family meeting for tonight, all of them. Tell them it's about Dad's care plan." "Are you sure you're ready for that?" "I'm ready." The house looked smaller than I remembered. I sat in my rental car for 10 minutes, staring at the front door before finally getting out. Marcus answered my knock with a surprised smile. "Joanna, your dad's going to be so happy to see you." Dad was in his recliner, looking cleaner and more comfortable than I'd seen him in months. His color was better, his breathing easier. "Dad?" He looked up and his face lit up. "Joanna? There's my good girl. Where have you been?" "I went away for a little while, but I'm back now." "Good. I missed you." I knelt beside his chair and took his hand. "I missed you too, Dad. Are Marcus and Elisa taking good care of you?" "Oh, yes, they're very nice, but I like it better when you're here too." "I know. We're going to figure some things out, okay?" At 7 o'clock, they arrived. Mom first, looking older and more fragile than when she'd left for Europe. Then Talia, her designer clothes wrinkled, her usual polish gone. Finally, Garrett, with dark circles under his eyes and the kind of exhaustion I recognized from my own mirror. We gathered in the living room where Dad sat in his chair, Marcus quietly monitoring from the kitchen. "You came back," Mom said, her voice barely a whisper. "I came back to talk." "Joanna, if this is about money," Garrett started. "It's not about money." I looked at each of them. "It's about Dad. And it's about us." Talia leaned forward. "We know we messed up. We know we left you with too much. You left me with everything. For 3 years. We're sorry," Mom said. "We're so sorry. Sorry doesn't fix 3 years of my life. But it's a start." I pulled out a folder I'd prepared on the plane. "Here's what's going to happen. Dad needs professional care. That's not negotiable, but the current arrangement is bankrupting him." "So, what do you suggest?" Garrett asked. "We scale back to part-time professional care. 12 hours a day instead of 24. The rest of the time, we take shifts. All of us." "Joanna," Mom began. "I'm not finished." "Mom, you'll take Monday and Tuesday. Talia gets Wednesday and Thursday. Garrett has Friday and Saturday. I'll cover Sunday and coordinate with the nurses." "That's not fair to you," Talia said. "You're still doing more." "I'm doing what I choose to do. The difference is, now it's my choice." Garrett shifted uncomfortably. "What if we can't handle it? What if something happens? Then you call the nurses, or you call me, but you don't get to dump everything on one person anymore. And if we refuse? Mom asked quietly. Then Dad goes into a facility and his money runs out in 6 months instead of 12. Your choice. The room was quiet except for Dad's steady breathing. There's one more thing, I said. I'm keeping power of attorney. All medical and financial decisions go through me. If anyone has a problem with that, speak now. Nobody spoke. Good. Marcus will train each of you on Dad's care routine. You'll learn to manage his medications, handle his mobility issues, deal with his confusion. It's not easy, but it's doable. Joanna, Mom said, tears in her eyes, can you forgive us? I looked at her, then at Talia and Garrett, 3 people who'd taken my sacrifice for granted, who'd built their lives on my unpaid labor. I'm working on it, I said, but forgiveness isn't the same as forgetting. Things are different now. Different how? Talia asked. I have a life outside this house now. I have plans, goals, dreams that don't revolve around being your safety net. You're going to have to figure out how to be adults without me cleaning up your messes. Dad stirred in his chair. Are you staying for dinner, Joanna? Yes, Dad, I'm staying for dinner. I looked around the room at my family, flawed, selfish, but finally present. We're all staying for dinner. 3 months later, I was sitting in a coffee shop in downtown working on a freelance project that actually excited me when my phone buzzed with a text from Garrett. Dad had a good day today. He helped me make pancakes. Thanks for teaching me how to do this. I smiled and put the phone away. The invoice had been paid, not in money, but in something more valuable. My family had finally learned the cost of care, and I'd learned the price of freedom. For the first time in years, my life belonged to me, and that was worth everything.
I don't want to spend Christmas with that loser. I froze as I tried to open the garden window while putting up the Christmas decorations. I clearly heard the voice of my sister, Odessa. Mom should make her pay for the renovation and then cut her off. It's embarrassing to call her family. Our mother, Martha, responded, We're already working on it. And all our inheritance will go to you. My heart was pounding as I finished putting up the lights. They laughed about how oblivious I was, saying things like I'm pretending to be a little contractor, and she'll never find a husband. She'll just die alone and lonely. Mom would hide her phone screen when I entered the room, whisper on the phone, and exchange glances with Odessa that twisted my stomach. After being a daughter for 34 years, you develop a sixth sense for these things. Thinking about it, I had dedicated 34 years to my family. Simply because I was single and financially free. I funded the family trips, I paid for Mom's luxuries, and the renovation costs for the house. Everything suddenly looked warped and ugly under the lights I had lovingly hung. Today, too, I spent the morning hanging lights, arranging decorations, and preparing a feast. Everything had to be perfect for me to earn my family's approval. I marinated the prime rib for 3 days and baked cookies from scratch. But the small hope that maybe, just maybe, they would accept me this year was shattered instantly. Something then hardened inside me like concrete. That moment, I decided to reclaim the time, assets, and self that my family had taken from me. But I didn't scream or confront them. I quietly stepped back, grabbed the cranberry sauce, took 3 deep breaths, and fixed the most convincing smile of my life on my face. The week before the Christmas gathering, something felt off about my mother. Not her usual irritation when I brought sawdust onto her pristine floors. This was different. She had been particularly tense lately, criticizing my every move, but I brushed it off as holiday stress. Everyone was home that day for the Christmas party. My father, my sister Odessa, and her husband Bruce. My father immediately complimented the renovations, and Bruce began asking sharp questions about my business finances in that arrogant lawyer tone that always knotted my stomach. After college, I built a construction company. I started with only tools and determination, and now I manage 5 crews. It's not flashy, but it pays well. Mom never approved of my unfeminine career choice. My dad, Ryan, an economics professor, never failed to offer condescending advice about my business. Odessa, with her lawyer husband, seemed to think she earned his status by association. They always believed I should do better. Their constant sarcasm about my cute little company and endless questions about when I'd find a real career never stopped. The Christmas party was then ready, right on time. But the conversation I overheard between my mother and sister lingered in my mind, turning dinner into an out-of-body experience. I filled wine glasses, served prime ribs, laughed at my father's boring academic jokes, and watched my mother, this elegant stranger, speak to me as if she hadn't broken my heart. Had that cold calculation always been behind her smile? Dinner ended and night fell. Mom began cleaning and softly humming Christmas carols, as if she hadn't just shattered my world. I insisted she relax and finish the cleanup myself. She tapped my cheek gently and said, "What a good daughter you are." That hypocrisy burned in my throat like acid. After she went to bed, I checked her laptop. Password protection was unusual for her. But I knew her patterns. I got in on the 3rd try. I found her emails with Odessa's husband, Bruce, dated back over a year. The plan was clear. They were waiting until the extensive renovations were done, after which they would finalize the inheritance transfer to Odessa, and then push me out. The spreadsheet detailed my assets, renovation costs, and even a timeline for removing me. There were also transfer records showing that Mom had been siphoning off the family trip funds I provided into a secret account for years. There were amounts small enough not to raise any suspicion. $20,000 I had contributed for family vacations were gone, just like that. Then, I found messages with someone saved as V. Following the trail, I discovered he was Brant. Apparently, he wasn't just a friend of hers. Reading through the messages, it became clear he was her secret partner. The messages spanned years. Years of deceit. And the money appeared to be used in support of their relationship. Knowing this, I couldn't sleep that night. The next day, I took off work and met with a lawyer while the family was out. I shared everything and showed the evidence I had gathered. Legally, even though I had funded the entire renovation, the original deed was still in their names. That alone wasn't enough as evidence. Everything I had built, every sacrifice I had made was about to be handed over to them. So I'm supposed to just let them take it? I asked numbly. The lawyer mentioned mediation and family reconciliation, but mentally I was already rebuilding my defenses. Something fundamental had shifted inside me. Looking back, my family had always underestimated me. They saw my work boots and lack of higher education and assumed I was simple. They never understood that building something from nothing requires intelligence, strategy, and steel-hard resolve. The next morning, I made my decision. As soon as everyone left, I took action. I installed small recording devices in the living room and kitchen. I crossed ethical boundaries I never thought I would need with family. I also set up a camera in Mom's room. Once everything was in place, I quietly baked cookies as if nothing had changed. I chatted with neighbors about holiday plans while collecting decorative pine cones, all the while thinking about the betrayal unfolding inside my home. At dinner that night, Mom seemed unusually distracted, constantly checking her phone. When I asked about her day, she gave vague answers. Her phone buzzed again, and I glimpsed a name. "Who's Brant?" I asked innocently, handing her the potatoes. Her hand froze for a second. "Oh, just a financial planning client. Year-end tax questions." Then she flipped her phone face down. That tiny hesitation said a lot. After spending 30 years with someone, you recognize their tells. "Must be urgent, messaging during family dinner," I said, maintaining my cheerful smile. She gave a nervous smile. "Some people just don't understand professional boundaries." The hypocrisy nearly choked me. After dinner, she said she had some work to do and disappeared into the study. I banged around cleaning loudly to make her believe I was busy, then moved quietly to the hallway near the slightly open door. Her voice drifted out soft, intimate, not her professional tone, not the voice of a mother. It was something I had never heard before. "I can't just call you whenever I want, yes. Just a little longer, yes. I miss you terribly too." Each whispered word drove another nail into the coffin of family trust. Everything I had provided was being funneled into my mother's affair. The rage I had been holding back threatened to burst. I wanted to storm in, confront her, and end the charade right then and there. But that would have ruined the plan I had carefully built. So I quietly withdrew. I returned to the kitchen. I turned on the mixer, pretending to make more cookie dough while refining my strategy. Over the next few weeks, I continued my investigation and discovered that Brant and my mother had maintained a special relationship for years. The plan became clear. This wasn't just an affair. It was a calculated decade-long deception. While compiling the evidence, I also created a comprehensive spreadsheet documenting every dollar I had invested in the family home. Renovation materials, contractor payments, design fees, custom furniture I built myself, and the landscaping she demanded for the perfect yard to host gatherings. Grand total, $57,450. That night, my mother asked me to help plan Odessa's birthday party next month. I played along, offering suggestions as expected, feeling nothing but hollow detachment while she pretended to value my opinion. Later that night, after everyone had gone to bed, I sat alone in my workshop, watching the sawdust drift in the air, questioning everything. How long had our family been a facade? Was I ever really a daughter, or just their convenient ATM? Was I simply a temporary resource? On Thursday afternoon, the first pieces of evidence from the recording devices began to come in. Odessa had dropped by unannounced and was talking quietly with my mother in the living room. When I got home from work, the recording had captured them talking about me. "Bruce finalized the paperwork," Odessa said. "Now that the renovations are done, the legal grounds for cutting her out are solid." Mom lowered her voice. "Is this really necessary? She's my daughter." "But you said it yourself," Odessa replied. "You can't stand spending Christmas with that loser. Make her pay for the renovation, then cut her loose." "A woman in construction? It's just too embarrassing." Mom sighed deeply. "You're right, we're already working on it. And I'm planning to leave all of the inheritance to you." And the plan with Brant? He's waiting. Ryan doesn't suspect a thing. Once the asset transfer is complete. What will you tell Dad? He won't care. He's been ignoring me for years. We're just two people sharing a house. I'm starting a new life with Brant. I can't wait any longer. Odessa laughed. So Ellen gets nothing? Nothing. Let her find her own way with her cute little company. My hands were trembling as I listened to the recording. The first conversation I overheard had been by chance, but now the full scope of their plan was clear. I had to protect everything I had built. That night, I initiated my final strategy. I drafted an urgent family financial discussion to be held on the day of Odessa's birthday party, under the guise of making critical decisions about the estate. It went exactly as planned. On the morning of the party, I completed the setup. I prepared the dining room, placing hidden documents near my seat. All the evidence recordings, financial logs, property papers was uploaded to a tablet. My mother had already set the table with the finest china. She looked uneasy, constantly checking her phone. I rehearsed the presentation, the exact order of evidence, and the timing of each revelation for maximum clarity. Strangely, it felt like preparing for the biggest project bid of my career. I wore my most authoritative outfit, a tailored blazer, crisp white shirt, and polished boots instead of my work sneakers. Also a uniform for the final appearance of their obedient daughter. From the stairs, I could hear my mother speaking quietly on the phone. Thanks to the recorder in the living room, I could review the conversation later if needed. But I already knew her co-conspirator and their plan. Let her enjoy these imagined final moments of control. Let her reassure Brant that everything was going as planned. Let her believe these last hours were proof of her perfect execution. The doorbell rang. Mom jumped and hastily ended her call. Dad arrived first, home from work, predictably carrying an expensive bottle of wine. Odessa and Bruce arrived shortly after. All participants were present, each unknowingly playing their part in my carefully orchestrated reveal. As we moved toward the dining area, Mom's phone lit up in her pocket. Before she could silence it, Brant's name flashed across the screen. I sat at the head of the table and placed the folder of evidence beside my plate. Mom sat to my right, Dad to my left. I controlled the story. As Dad debated wine selections, I stood and raised my glass. The conversation ceased instantly. I smiled deliberately at each family member, leaving Mom for last. Before we celebrate Christmas tonight, I said, raising my glass higher, I'd like to toast to family, loyalty, and finally acknowledging the truth beneath our beautiful renovation. The confusion that crossed their faces was merely the overture. They had no idea what was coming. And neither did Mom. I calmly took a sip of Dad's expensive wine. Now, I continued, pulling out the tablet. I've discovered a serious issue that threatens everything I've built. A problem festering just beneath the foundation of our family. Dad leaned in with barely concealed condescension. Budget constraints? Cash flow problems? I've always said your construction business lacked proper academic planning. Actually, I replied, connecting the tablet to the large screen, the problem isn't my business. It's our family? The room fell utterly silent. Mom's hand froze on mine. "Ellen," she whispered, tense, "what are you doing?" That's when I played the recording of her and Odessa. Their voices echoed through the beautifully renovated dining room. Odessa saying I needed to be cut off after paying for the renovation, calling my construction career embarrassing. Mom confirming they'd already begun the process, and Bruce saying they could even take the house. I paused the playback there. I watched each reaction closely. Odessa turned pale. Dad's expression crumpled in confusion. Bruce sat up, defensive. And Mom remained frozen, watching her carefully constructed deceit collapse like a poorly engineered structure. Next, I displayed screenshots of her messages with Brant redacted for dignity, but undeniably damning. I withheld his name deliberately. "For 10 years, I said with quiet strength. 10 years of deception while I worked 70-hour weeks renovating our family home." I turned to my father. "Did you know Mom was having an affair? Did you know about the plan to kick me out after the renovations were finished?" Dad was stunned. I showed the comprehensive spreadsheet. Every dollar I invested in the family home, $57,450. "This is what I contributed to our family while building my business from scratch," I said firmly. Next slide. Documents of misappropriated family vacation funds and plans to exclude me from the inheritance. "And this," I said, "was the reward for my devotion." The silence felt physically heavy. Then my father suddenly stood up, knocking his chair backward. "This is atrocious. Martha, what is the meaning of this?" Immediately, my mother grabbed my wrist. "Ellen, you're misunderstanding everything." And Bruce, ever the calculating lawyer, began trying to delete files from his phone under the table. I pointed directly at him. "The documents you're deleting are already backed up. Every hour you spent advising them on how to remove me." Bruce froze and looked at Odessa. My mother shifted tactics. "It wasn't what you think," she pleaded, strategically allowing tears to surface. "This is a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding?" I repeated, incredulous. "While I was earning money to renovate your dream kitchen? While I was working for your entertainment?" I had no intention of losing my composure, but something inside me cracked. "For 34 years, I said, my voice lowering. "For 34 years I believed in this family, but I was just your convenient ATM." Then I displayed another piece of evidence messages between Mother and Brant titled "New Life Plan After Renovation." The notes included, "Best time to tell R. Ryan and after securing funds from E. Ellen. Your partner is Brant. Dad's business associate, right?" The room went completely still. "After the renovation, you plan to start a new life with Brant. Abandon Dad. Cut me out of the inheritance. Give everything to Odessa." Mother's face turned dramatically pale. "You investigated him?" "Yes. And I had coffee with his wife. I thought she deserved to know about your ongoing relationship." "My friend Brant? A friend for 30 years? My best friend from college?" Father's voice was ice. Mother sat speechless. "How long has this been going on?" "Answer me." Father shouted, then smashed the remaining glass on the table to the floor. "How long have you been betraying me with Brant?" "Ryan, please." He pointed around the room. All of this renovation, was it for him? You took money from Ellen to live with him? You robbed her inheritance? Took my house? His face was red with rage, fists clenched so tightly his knuckles turned white. 34 years of marriage, and this is how you repay me? He spoke quieter, but more dangerously. My friend? My colleague? While you were planning this, I was working alongside him. Mother was crying. You never paid attention to me, your research, your career. And how does that justify this? Father's voice shook. How does any of this become justifiable? You betrayed the entire family. You betrayed me. And worst of all, you betrayed your own daughter. That was when he exploded. He grabbed the edge of my custom dining table and flipped it violently. Food, wine, crystal all crashed to the floor. Mother screamed. Odessa gasped. Bruce jumped back. I sat still, strangely calm, watching decades of family illusions shattered around us. Mother kept repeating desperately, "Ellen, please, we need to talk about this privately." This wasn't how it was supposed to happen. How exactly were you planning to steal my assets? Continue your affair with Dad's former partner while claiming everything I built? I shook my head firmly. There's nothing left to discuss. I walked to the front door and flung it open. This party is over. Leave? Now. My father walked out on his own, and I escorted my sister and brother-in-law outside. Then it was just my mother and me left in the ruins of our family dinner. Where will you go? She asked in a strangely small voice. I've already secured accommodations, I replied. I'll return tomorrow to collect my equipment. You orchestrated this whole reveal, she whispered with disbelief. I learned strategic planning by watching you, I said, gathering my overnight bag. As I stepped outside, she called out desperately. You'll regret this. I did not acknowledge her. That night, in a hotel suite, I slept peacefully for the first time in days. The next day, while everyone was out, I returned to the house and gathered what mattered: tools, equipment, business files, personal photos, and left a spare key on the workbench I had built. I had already rented a beautiful condo near my office. I wasn't hiding, just setting boundaries. For 2 weeks, I avoided social media, ignored non-essential communication, and focused on setting up the new space. My work quickly became a source of comfort. Construction had always been my true home. When I finally checked my messages, they had poured in 14 increasingly desperate texts from my mother, ranging from pure rage to pleading. At first, she expressed nothing but fury. How could you humiliate me in front of everyone? And you destroyed this family. Gradually, her tone shifted toward apology. Ellen, please answer. We need to talk. And I know mistakes were made, but families work through things. Then, the final message. Brant just called to end it. He's trying to reconcile with his wife. I have no one left. I read the messages without emotion, feeling only fatigue. Not victory. Not justification. Just emptiness. Like finishing a massive renovation, only to have the client complain about the paint color. I finally replied, I've already filed for a restraining order. All I want is complete separation from this family." Her response was instant. "No contact? Please. Just one conversation." I sent my mother a final message. "There's nothing left to discuss. Our relationship is over. All future communication must go through my attorney." Then I blocked her number. At the end of that week, a message came from Odessa. "Ellen, I'm truly sorry. Mom may have led it, but I'm just as guilty. I can't take back what I said that night. But we're still family, aren't we? Please, let's talk. Bruce says he can support your business. If you need legal advice." I immediately forwarded her message to my attorney. The next day, filings were submitted for restraining orders against both my sister and Bruce. After that night, my father contacted a lawyer. He conducted his own investigation and discovered that the affair between Martha and Brant had indeed existed. He was devastated by the depth of the betrayal and the fact that she had planned to leave him. He wanted to discuss revising his will and the distribution of his estate. "He's considering transferring the entire inheritance to you," the lawyer said. "He plans to cut Odessa out completely." "That's not necessary," I replied. "No, he insists on it," the lawyer continued. "He believes it's fair." After learning the extent of Martha and Brant's plan and just how involved Odessa truly was, he's convinced this is the only just course of action. After I ended the call with the lawyer, I found a message from my father. "Please forgive my ignorance. For too long, I turned a blind eye. Now I will make it right. Everything I own will go to you. You are the only one who has shown true integrity." With reconciliation and a shared understanding of the deception we had both endured, I agreed to meet my father for lunch. 3 months passed. My new home was ideal. From the balcony of the spacious condo, I could see the lake, and in a corner of the living room, I stayed up late drafting blueprints in my workspace. There were moments of loneliness, but it was far healthier than the false relationships I had left behind. My father and I began meeting once a month. He too was seeking a new life. He had retired, moved to a small town, and started teaching part-time at a local college. Our relationship was being rebuilt carefully, but steadily. We avoided talking about the family. Instead, we spoke of the future. One evening, I began taking measurements for a new design project. Sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating my workspace. If someone asked what I was measuring, I would have said this. Not just the dimensions of the room, but the possibilities of a new life.